Chapter 750. Another encounter with Soul Destruction Temple Master. Many times in true martial school, corresponding items were not simply redeemable with merit points. There were quite a few criteria for certain items. It was not something one could redeem as they pleased. There were many other factors like the person's status and the person's credit to true martial school. Now these constraining systems were gone. As long as the person had enough points, the person could exchange for anything. The method of obtaining points was also very simple. That was to kill the disciples of emergent school. Under the temptation of these points, the disciples of true martial school worked hard and were not afraid of death. They were very clear that everything they had now was backed by the true martial school. If true martial school collapsed, then it would be the end for them too. There was no way for the emergent school to spare them. For remote affiliates such as the Yuan sect, emergent school might still recruit them. However, for the genuine disciples of these emergent schools, the emergent school would not let them go. Those who were lucky might be able to escape, but it would halt their cultivation progress in life. Hence, the true martial school's disciples did not have many options. Either way, they would need to go for war. Rather than sit idly, it was better to fight with all they could. Moreover, killing an emergent school's disciple had many benefits. In this case, the disciples of true martial school were fighting bravely. The passage of time did not stop. 3 months had passed already. During these 3 months, Yi Shiwen was constantly fighting in the south region and constantly killing the south barbarians' iron-armored horsemen and demon-worshipping religion. The organizations emerged when true martial school was in trouble. These people only wanted the world in chaos. The places they would pillage would be villages. Sometimes, the entire village or city would be slaughtered with no life remaining. The demon-worshipping religion was even eager to kill humans to summon the demon clan. The South Barbarian wasn't indifferent to the death of innocent people too. They are here to fight for living space. Among them, there were countless tribes starved for living spaces. The more people die, the easier it would be for the tribe to migrate over. And these people were Yi Ziwen's enemies and targets. They would not care about the death of ordinary people, but true martial school must care. These people were the foundation of true martial school. If they were all dead, then no matter how powerful true martial school was, they would need to face the issue of lacking a generation of successors. Yi Shiwen and Wolf Cub's cooperation made them invincible. Although there were many masters in the South Barbarian and demon-worshipping religion, including in the Great Sage realm, they had no way to contend with Yi Shiwen. Even once, Yi Shiwen met a master of Great Sage Great Mastery. However, Yi Ziwen's Star Beast avatar killed the person in the end. Yi Shiwen also became famous in the South region because of this. There were many true martial school disciples like Yi Shiwen who were wandering outside to hunt down the South Barbarian and demon-worshipping religion. However, these reputations were quickly submerged in the warfare involving true martial school. At this moment, the battle between true martial school and emergent school concerned the entire true martial domain the most. Luckily, other forces in the entire true martial domain did not kick true martial school when it was down. They just sit idly by. It was not that they were so kind. For true martial school, it already felt like a knife at the throat. They would be pleased if true martial school were to be eliminated. However, even after facing their joint attack, true martial school was still as strong as ever. This time, it should have been an unprecedented opportunity. Even if true martial school finally won, the true martial school should suffer their besiegement again. But this time it was different. These forces also felt the immediate threat. In the past, no matter how they resisted, it was still an inner battle within the true martial domain in the end. The biggest factor was that true martial school did not eliminate them despite being quite dominant. Also, when these forces joined together, they were only able to protect themselves. So no matter how they fight internally, at least they could protect themselves and there was no worry of annihilation. However, these outsiders would be different. True martial school was so powerful that it could only occupy the South region among the 5 regions and 4 wilderness. But these outsiders were huge monsters that occupied the whole world. They were more surly and unreasoning than true martial school. The news in regards to Emergent School waging a war had spread among many forces outside this domain. Many forces wanted to invade the true martial domain too. It was impossible for so many forces to share true martial domain. In other words, even if true martial school was destroyed, they would have no benefit because a stronger opponent than true martial school would appear in the south region. Most importantly, if Emergent School succeeded, the other forces outside the domain would really suffer. During this period of time, seeing the miserable situation of true martial school when they were fighting against the invasion of Emergent School, the outside forces were already worried. Although it seemed that true martial school had no signs of not collapsing it now, they could only contend with Emergent School with a raise. It was hard to imagine how much price the true martial school had paid. All the spies sent were updating with the numbers of masters killed and injured. Hence, these outside forces were quite self-aware. They did consider if this did not happen to true martial school but happened to them. They did not have a strong background like true martial school. God knows if they could stand strong for how many days. So even if they saw that true martial school suffered heavy losses, they were not as happy as they thought. Bang! Yi Shiwen bombarded a punch onto the barbaric clan army. Thousands of barbarian clan troops collapsed in his hands. This army was all composed of legendary masters. They were so vulnerable in Yi Ziwen's hand. This might be the most elite force of a tribe, but it collapsed in the hands of Yi Shiwen. If not, they could possibly wipe out an empire, or even the south region. In the southern wilderness, each tribe was a small kingdom. Although there was a transcendent power above them, they had a relatively strong fighting force in general. The masters were stationed in the tribe. This was because, among the 100,000 South Barbarian Mountains, many barbaric beasts were living there. They might invade the tribe at any time, so there were many masters left in their tribe. But it was different in the South region. Although there were a lot of dangers, it was much more optimal than South Wilderness. Hence, many masters were concentrated in true martial school. Therefore, the army defeated by Yi Shiwen might be the most elite force of a large tribe. After losing, the security of the tribe would be in jeopardy, but this was not within Yi Ziwen's concern. Yi Shiwen, ha! God bless me. Unexpectedly, I get to see you here. Suddenly, a rough roar came from a distance. Immediately afterward, a figure flew over and arrived. He was a big person with a long beard. His gaze was fierce, and he stared at Yi Shiwen with his eyes full of hatred. Terrifying demon aura overflowed. Nyehan. Yi Shiwen uttered the name in his mouth. The person in front of him was no other than the person who pursued him for innumerable miles from the Wind Dragon Star to the true martial school. It was the demon-worshipping religion Soul Destruction Temple Master, Nyehan. Yi Shiwen had a deep impression with the Soul Destruction Temple Master in front of him. At that time he almost died. If he did not successfully go inside the true martial school, his life would already be repealed by this guy. How could Yi Shiwen not remember someone like him? Yi Shiwen became fully alerted. A great sage, great mastery master was definitely a terrible character. But now he was not the same weakling. In the past few months, Yi Shiwen had already consolidated his cultivation as Great Sage Intermediate. With his constant fighting, the realm had quickly stabilized. The process could be considered extremely fast. Yi Shiwen right now was capable of contending against Great Sage Minor Mastery or even straight up defeating those in that caliber. Among the masters of the Great Sage Minor Mastery, Yi Shiwen was at the top. At this time, when he encounters Great Sage Great Mastery, he would not be helpless with no ways to fight back. Yi Shiwen could afford to exchange blows. Most importantly, Yi Shiwen had his Star Beast avatar. He had the chance to deliver a one-hit kill too. The hatred of getting pursued. The scores would need to be settled. It really takes no effort. As long as I can kill you, then everything lost can be compensated. You will die in my hands. Nyehan sneered and immediately threw a fist. This fist evolved into a monstrous demon hand and swooshed down. The skies seemingly crumbled. The terrifying Great Sage aura locked on Yi Shiwen, cutting all of his routes to escape. Even the space locked in an instant whereby flicker was not even allowed. Feeling the immense power, Yi Shiwen was not surprised but rejoiced. He laughed aloud. It's true that evildoers dig their own graves. Nye Han, today is your death. Let me personally send you to the afterlife. Yi Shiwen could clearly feel that the power Nye Han mustered was not in Great Sage Great Mastery but Great Sage Minor Mastery. Find out what happens next by getting early access to chapters with. Chapter 751. An Eye for an Eye. Yi Shiwen was pleasantly surprised by this discovery. It turned out that Soul Destruction Temple Master Nye Han was not in the realm of Great Sage Great Mastery but in the realm of Great Sage Minor Mastery. He was overjoyed at the turn of events. He initially thought he had to mobilize Star Beast Avatar to suppress Nye Han. But, since Nye Han was just at the Great Sage Minor Mastery realm, then the situation was completely different. Yi Shiwen could cope with it easily. Although Yi Shiwen had some doubts in his heart whereby Nye Han was in Great Sage Great Mastery during the previous encounter, he knew he would not make a mistake in his senses. Since Nye Han was definitely at the strength of Great Sage Great Mastery during the last encounter, then there was only one possibility. He was critically injured by the Supreme Schoolmaster when he broke into the True Martial School by mistake. Although the injury was healed, it also left some ramifications. Moreover, Yi Shiwen remembered that Nye Han used some of his secret technique last time too. But even so, despite him degrading from the realm of Great Sage Great Mastery, Nye Han was still stronger among Great Sage Minor Mastery warriors. He should be able to eliminate a Great Sage Minor Mastery in ease. Hence, he was practically invincible in this realm. Any ordinary person would be unmatched even if he also attained the Great Sage Minor Mastery. Only a talent like Yi Shiwen who was also a freak would not be intimidated by him. Yi Ziwen's golden wings spread in an instant. His figure was like lightning, avoiding this sudden attack swiftly. Your strength is far less powerful than the last time. Yi Shiwen sneered. Although Nye Han was a little surprised by the improvement of Yi Ziwen's strength, he was still indifferent about it. After all, in his opinion, Yi Ziwen's speed was already ridiculously fast to begin with. When Yi Shiwen was just a half-step great sage, Yi Shiwen was able to escape from his pursuit. This made him rejoice for no reason despite the heavy costs that came along. Yi Shiwen didn't launch any attack but only showcased his speed. Nye Han was indifferent about it and was not alerted. It's all because of you, little brat. As soon as he said this, Nye Han's eyes were fuming with anger. He ended up in this state because of Yi Shiwen. He gave it all and utilized his secret technique to improve his strength to launch an all-out attack. But it had only critically injured Yi Shiwen. In the end, he was struck by the Supreme Schoolmaster of True Martial School, plus the secret technique of ramifications, which directly left an internal injury that was difficult to cure. Although Nye Han did recover from the injury, his strength fell all the way from Great Sage Great Mastery to Great Sage Minor Mastery. Moreover, this injury was permanent. It would be difficult to escalate into the next realm. His decline in strength had directly caused many of his men in Soul Destruction Temple to be tempted to make a move. After all, in demon-worshipping religion, they only talked about interest. All of them were bound by interests. Loyalty and respect were all bullshit for them. Without the deterrent of tyrannical strength, Nye Han's position as a temple master became precarious. Many of his henchmen wanted to overthrow his temple master. Nye Han thought Yi Shiwen died in his hands. In this case, although he paid a heavier price, it was fine and worth it. But little did he know that Yi Shiwen did not die. Instead, he was alive and kicking. This made his original plan ruined. He originally thought that as long as he could kill Yi Shiwen even if he paid a little more price, but by virtue of the merits, he could gain personal empowerment from the masters in the demon domain. With that, he had great hope to break through into the transcendent realm. Those underlings who had ill intentions could be easily killed. They dared not resist his rule. With that, he could bring Soul Destruction Temple to an unprecedented higher level which the previous rulers had never achieved. Moreover, he would be able to contend and be on an equal level with the other 10 main temples. But all of these were gone. Yi Shiwen hadn't died. It was naturally impossible for him to get the empowerment from the masters in demon domain. If the news of death did not come out in a day, then Nye Han had no proof. There was no way to confirm his words. So Nye Han could only spend all his net worth and finally healed the injuries on his body. However, only the apparent injuries were healed. There was no way to heal those internal injuries. All his efforts in meeting various healing masters were also futile. It would be impossible for him to enter the next realm in his lifetime unless the senior level in Demon Domain empowered him. Only with that, he would be able to repair the internal injury in his body and had further possibilities to be promoted in cultivation in the future. This made him helpless and frustrated. He just took advantage of this time when Emergent School invaded True Martial School and came to find the trouble of True Martial School. In his view, he would be reduced to this because of True Martial School. If there was no True Martial School, how could he end this way? Nothing is impossible for a willing heart. There is always a way out. He actually encountered Yi Shiwen here. As long as Nye Han could capture Yi Shiwen, he would definitely be able to be personally empowered by the masters of Demon Domain. By that time, his future would be bright. When one door shuts, another opens. If it's not you, how would I end up like this? It doesn't matter. As long as I slay or capture you, then I will be able to get what I want. My future is boundless. Yi Shiwen, use your head to lay the foundation for my glorious and invincible road. Nye Han growled, almost turning the world upside down. With that said, Nye Han suddenly launched another attack again. His attack was stronger than just now. A demon hand covering the sky suddenly appeared. It grabbed toward Yi Shiwen in an instant. This attack was much more powerful than before. Obviously, Nye Han wanted to kill Yi Shiwen in a single blow without giving him any chance to breathe. Old hag, didn't I already say I will definitely let you die without a burial place if I were to meet you again? Recalling the tragic situation during the last pursuit, Yi Shiwen's heart was burning with rage. With the anger flickering in his eyes, Yi Shiwen did not evade the attack but delivered his sky-collapsing fire cloud hand. Boom! The two overwhelming big hands met in the sky. Both sides were distinguished figures with terrible skills. As they suddenly ran into each other, a terrifying explosion swept up on the spot. The terrible air shockwave instantly flushed the surroundings. The two combat powers had reached a level beyond Great Sage Minor Mastery. It was unimaginable. Even Great Sage Great Mastery could not take it lightly. Impossible, how could you be so powerful? Nye Han only felt that his arms were numbing, and he simply found it inexplicable. Nye Han couldn't believe that the situation had developed into this. His memory still stayed when he last hunted down Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen had become so strong only in a few years. The last time that Yi Shiwen was chased by him, he was so desperate. If he did not escape into True Martial School, he would most likely die in Nye Han's hand. However, he could fight with Nye Han without losing any advantage. Nye Han simply found the situation simply impossible. How can he make such great progress? Thinking of this, sinister thoughts overwhelmed his heart. He was not only seriously injured but dropped in the cultivation realm due to Yi Shiwen. Despite being invulnerable in the Great Sage Minor Mastery realm, he was far from comparable when he was Great Sage Great Mastery at that time. Even at that time, he was regarded as a person who could run rampant among Great Sage Great Mastery. Otherwise, he could not lead the Soul Destruction Temple with only Great Sage Great Mastery. After all, although Soul Destruction Temple's strength could only be considered the bottom of the demon-worshipping religion 99 temple, it was still extremely impressive. But when he was injured and his skill regressed, Yi Shiwen actually made great progress. Isn't that the same as hitting his face in public? What did he do so desperately previously to kill Yi Shiwen was seemingly a joke now. Damn you little brat. That. Nye Han screamed. His big hand swooshed down. The entire arena was filled with the crying of ghosts and chilly wind. A huge demon foot stretched out from the center of the palm and stepped towards Yi Shiwen. How is that a foot? It seems like a claw, full of scales. Each finger of the claws is like a sturdy pillar that can kill a mountain on the spot. Chang! Yi Shiwen's sword chi surged in an instant. Every pore on his body was spitting out the sword chi. These sword chis gathered in the air and formed a terrifying giant sword. It slashed directly towards the giant claw. Boom! It was another sound of a huge explosion. Yi Zaiwen's long sword seemed to be chopped on a piece of metal. Even metal clanking sounds were made, sparks were scattered. However, Yi Shiwen increased his grasp. The sword chi in the long sword was seemingly stimulated. Countless elixir in Tianyuan mirror was converted into spiritual energy and infused into the long sword. Boom! In a huge vibration, the big foot was slashed open by Yi Zaiwen's sword. A mutilated demon foot fell from the sky and created a huge dent on the ground. Demon blood flowed out and directly polluted the countless land around it. From then on, normal plants could no longer grow, but only contaminated demon aura plants could grow. Roar! There was a sharp roar coming from the demonic hand. Obviously this demon foot should be the foot of the demon summoned by Nye Han out of nowhere. It wanted to kill Yi Shiwen, but it was chopped down by Yi Shiwen. Chapter 752. Severe Injury. Boom! 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 A loud thud rumbled in the sky. The shock wave from the confrontation rippled out. Many mountains around Tianyu were shattered. They were incapable of facing Nye Han, who was in the Great Sage Minor Mastery Power realm. Despite Yi Shiwen proclaimed himself at the top of this realm and did not put those in Great Sage Minor Mastery in his eyes, he still played safe at the start. After all, as compared to a decent Great Sage Minor Mastery realm master, Yi Shiwen entered the Great Sage Intermediate just recently. But the Nye Han in front of him was not an ordinary Great Sage Minor Mastery, but he descended from the Great Sage Great Mastery peak. Even an ordinary Great Sage Great Mastery master probably could not really do anything to him. Yi Shiwen was indeed strong, but he would still struggle in confronting such an enemy. Each blow coming from Nye Han that struck Yi Shiwen was like consolidating his foundation, making his realm more stable and more powerful. Yi Shiwen had the tyrant body as a foundation. It was difficult for Nye Han's attack to cause a fatal threat to Yi Shiwen. Coupled with the Phoenix regeneration technique, the general injury could be recovered in an instant. With that, Yi Shiwen could utilize Nye Han's attack to hone himself. Any ordinary person should suffer greatly, even if he was also in the Great Sage Minor Mastery realm. Only Yi Shiwen could achieve this feat as Yi Zaiwen's strength increased gradually, his battle became more and more relaxed, and he gradually captured the initiative in the battle. Seeing that he failed to defeat Yi Shiwen in an instant, Nye Han gradually began to be anxious. There was a flash of anxiety in his eyes. Soul Destruction Temple Master, do you even live up to that title? No wonder Soul Destruction Temple is only the bottom of the demon-worshipping religion 99 temple. All of it is because of you. What a pit for them. Yi Shiwen attacked Nye Han viciously with words. This Nye Han was also battle-hardened. He who grew up in the demon-worshipping religion definitely had more experience than Yi Shiwen. Despite Yi Shiwen having his strength improved at every second while consolidating his foundation at the same time, would he really be able to reach the peak and overwhelm Nye Han? It should be extremely difficult. After all, Nye Han could already be regarded as a benchmark in the Great Sage Minor Mastery realm. The only way to be stronger than Nye Han was to attain Great Sage Great Mastery. So Yi Shiwen utilized all the means he could muster to attack Nye Han. You're courting death. Nye Han finally couldn't bear it and became angry. Soul Destruction Temple ranking had always been the soft spot in his heart. He was superior among thousands of demon-worshipping religion members. As someone who had reached this stage, Nye Han was talented. He definitely had many fruitful adventures. Of course, he was quite ambitious, wanting to strive to the top. Crudely speaking, he would prefer to be a big fish in a small pond rather than a small fish in a big pond. Furthermore, if he had the chance to be outstanding among the distinguished figures, the big pond, so to speak, he would definitely appreciate it. However, due to Yi Shiwen, not only did he lose the chance to become outstanding among the distinguished figures, he even lost the chance to be a minute character among the distinguished figures. In the end, he was more probable to only be a small leader of a weak crowd. No matter how bad the situation was, being a small fish in the big pond still had its benefits. The status associated with that definitely outmatched being a small leader of a weak crowd. Demonic flames surged from Nie Han's figure, instantly engulfing the sky. Behind him, a demonic figure appeared faintly. It manifested a big hand and bombarded toward Yi Shiwen again. Nie Han cultivated in a soul destruction temple martial art. A martial art that only temple masters could get their hands on, soul destruction demonic scripture. Despite it not being the strongest among many arts in demon-worshipping religion, it was enough to rank in the top 100. Although it was only in the top 100, its strength could not be belittled since the ranking came from hundreds of thousands of demon-worshipping religion martial arts. Almost at the moment when the demonic figure appeared, the attack already rushed to Yi Ziwen's face. It almost ignored the distance of the space. The terrifying demon aura locked on Yi Shiwen firmly. It gave Yi Shiwen the feeling no matter how far he fled, he would still be targeted. A strange illusion that he would not be able to escape at all. This was Nie Han's full strength. The last time he chased down Yi Shiwen was nothing but a half-step great sage. In the pursuit, there was no other way but to escape. There was no way for Yi Shiwen to retaliate. Naturally, Nie Han did not have the idea of going all out to deal with Yi Shiwen. But the situation was different. Yi Shiwen had exhibited a great threat. Not only Yi Ziwen's presence put Nie Han at shame, this was the only opportunity for him to improve his status into a distinguished figure. He had to kill Yi Shiwen no matter what. With that, all the prices he had paid would be rewarded. Hence, he delivered an attack with all his strength. Soul destruction cross-shaped slash. As the terrifying big hand came crashing down from the sky, it became cross-shaped. Even though it was not in the Great Sage Great Mastery realm but just Great Sage Minor Mastery, it should not be underestimated. Yi Shiwen threw a punch which manifested a big star and directly confronted the soul destruction cross-shaped slash. As he threw his punch, it had seemingly materialized the galaxy. Yi Shiwen had indeed gone all out without any reservation in this punch. Boom! Yi Shiwen could feel that there was boundless force bombarding him from the soul destruction cross-shaped slash. Even his tyrant body was shivering, and his bones were making a metal clanking symphony when the attack collided with his body. The general physical body would crumble in Nie Han's attack. Soul Destruction Temple Master's strength was indeed extraordinary. But Yi Shiwen did not make Nie Han feel any better. Nie Han retreated all the way with his face pale. The shockwave in the exchange of blows did pull a huge toll on Nie Han's physique. That's all you got. If I were you, I would choose to hide. Now your strength is nothing more than last time. God knows when you will be beheaded. Yi Shiwen laughed out loud. Nie Han's face stiffened, thinking of the possibility that Yi Shiwen said. Despite him being resolute most of the time, he felt his heart tremble. If that was true, he had no say to his survival. Demon-worshipping religion had all kinds of means and torture. If he was ousted from the throne of Temple Master, there must be someone who wanted to replace him as the Soul Destruction Temple Master. Nie Han quickly reclaimed his thoughts with a cruel voice on his face. If you want to shake my determination, it is impossible. Nie Han actually reacted. Yi Shiwen deliberately used words to upset Nie Han and crumble his resolve. With that, Yi Shiwen only had the chance to defeat Nie Han in one fell swoop. It was quite a vicious means to tackle someone's psychology. When Nie Han thought of this, he calmed down immediately. Although he was still very angry at Yi Shiwen, this anger stopped affecting his judgment. Nie Han was after all battle-hardened. He could definitely see through the trap, hence the effectiveness was not great. On cunningness, I have not seen a junior like you. On talent, you can cultivate from half-step Great Sage all the way to Great Sage Intermediate in a short period of time. I am unheard of such talent. Perhaps, your achievements in the future will be limitless. However, it does not matter. As long as you are beheaded, then everything will be over. Nie Han said with a sneer. The soul destruction cross-shaped slash was once again issued. This time, it was even more terrifying than how it was previously. Nie Han's strength was fully demonstrated. It was much more tyrannical than just now. The entire soul destruction cross-shaped slash shone brightly in the sky. Even heaven and earth were seemingly cut into 4 petals. Yi Ziwen's body was immediately covered with layers of golden divinity. From a distance, he looked like a battle god in gold casting. His figure rushed into the demon hand that covered the sky. At the same time, Tianyuan mirror on him also exuded an unimaginable blood-red light as it accompanied Yi Shiwen and rushed towards the big hand. A huge cracking sound blasted. It sounded like a piece of cloth torn in half in the sky. The soul destruction cross-shaped slash was torn in half by the blood-red light on Yi Shiwen. The golden divinity on his body seemed to be boiling, countering the power from the soul destruction cross-shaped slash. As the golden divinity flowed continuously on Yi Ziwen's body, the aftermath of the confrontation was unloaded. It was the gilded tyrant form. And those blood light instantly tore the soul destruction cross-shaped slash. What? Nye Han was taken aback. Yi Ziwen's power was so unparalleled, but Nye Han simply ran out of time to think further. It was because Yi Shiwen had already rushed in front of him. Throughout the battle, it was Nye Han holding the initiative to attack. Yi Shiwen was constantly defending and shielding off his attack. Now that Yi Shiwen was actively attacking him, he was immediately shocked and angry. He could feel Yi Shiwen was making continuous progress. Such progress shocked him. He could also see that Yi Shiwen was slowly adapting to his rhythm. When Yi Shiwen decided to take the initiative to attack, it hinted that Yi Shiwen was confident to defeat him. This put him into shame, which escalated into anger. Yi Shiwen was like a sword as he broke the vast sky. In Tianyuan mirror, 100 million elixir was burned in one breath, all of which was instilled into Yi Ziwen's body. Yi Ziwen's strength was already terrifying. Not to mention the help of this sudden 100 million elixir, it pushed him beyond the limit, allowing him to rush to Nye Han in an instant. Boom! Yi Shiwen struck Nye Han like a sharp sword, as if Mars hit the earth. Nye Han suffered a severe injury. His body was terribly mangled on the spot. Nye Han flew out in a distance amidst his agonizing scream. Yi Ziwen's tackle almost took his life. Chapter 753. Kill Nye Han. Yi Shiwen devoted a lot to this attack. He knew if he were to launch an attack, he had to make it count. If he were to continue the fight with Nye Han in his current strength, it would be a loss for both sides in the end. Hence, this was the only way. Yi Shiwen devoted a lot to the attack and hit him hard. He would want to set the balance of victory toward his side. Although it consumed 100 million elixirs, Yi Shiwen wasn't hesitant with it. For him, if 100 million elixirs could be exchanged for Nye Han's life, it was still worth it. Yi Shiwen would never give Nye Han any time to escape. He dashed out and caught up instantly, taking advantage of Nye Han's weak state to kill him. You hurt me! How is that possible? Nye Han growled with his face turned ugly. Although he had already seen Yi Ziwen's strength, in fact, he still did not take Yi Shiwen in his heart. He still regarded Yi Shiwen simply unworthy to match with him. But now that the ants that he didn't put in his eyes actually hurt him. What's more, it was a severe injury. It was like a loud slap right on his face. His aura surged vigorously in an instant. The demon aura on his body was boiling. That signified the burning of blood essence. Murderous intent overflowed from his eyes. What was left in the world through Nye Han's eyes was Yi Shiwen alone. Only by killing Yi Shiwen that Nye Han had a way out from the whole ordeal. Otherwise, never mind losing the position of Soul Destruction Temple Master, he might even be killed by those who worked for him in the past. He had no choice. Killing Yi Shiwen was his only path. Under the ruthless demon light which lit up the horizon, Nye Han emerged with an extreme and extreme sinister power. The space around him all boiled up. Soul destruction cross-shaped slash burst out in an instant. Under the burning of countless blood essences on Nye Han's body, soul destruction cross-shaped slash also became countless times stronger. Nye Han's eyes were already crimson red. His hatred on Yi Shiwen was so intense. He wanted to kill Yi Shiwen so much that he resolved to burn the blood essence in his body. As long as he could kill Yi Shiwen, there would be masters from demon domain to empower him. He would be able to gain back any blood essence consumed. Yi Shiwen had gone through hundreds of battles. How could he not notice the desperation in Yahan's eyes and the burned blood essence? Of course, Yi Shiwen was reluctant to burn blood essence, but he was willing to burn the elixirs. For him, the wealth on his body had reached an unimaginable level for ordinary people. After so many years of accumulation, even if he had used a lot, he actually plundered the wealth of so many masters. His wealth had exceeded 10 billion elixirs. Among the masters killed by Yi Shiwen, there were many masters in the Great Sage realm, and the total number should be more than 30. They alone contributed 4 to 5 billion of wealth to Yi Shiwen, excluding that dragon vein. If the dragon vein was condensed into elixirs, his wealth would be uncountable. Furthermore, the law enforcement hall had not given the compensation yet to Yi Shiwen. Due to the invasion of Emergent School this time, this matter would be postponed until the end of the war. However, Yi Shiwen was not in a hurry. Anyway, he had a lot of elixirs now. He could consume 1 billion with no attachment. As long as he could defeat the strong enemy, it didn't matter how much he consumed. Yi Shiwen immediately bombarded the shattered star fist. It was a scene of star destruction, extremely terrifying. Yi Shiwen burned 10 million elixir. Although it was not as good as the attack just now, it was still powerful. Boom! 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 The two sides collided many times. One of them burned blood essence and the other burned elixir. Their strength increased to a horrific level in an instant. The attack power at that moment was no inferior than Great Sage Great Mastery. A large amount of spiritual energy had poured into Yi Shiwen's body, making his body feel soaked in a world of spiritual energy. All of his meridians opened up, which excited Yi Shiwen the more he fought. On the contrary, Yahan's side was completely opposite to Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen was backed by 10 billion elixirs. He could afford to continuously burn elixir. Moreover, he could utilize the dragon vein if it was necessary. Not to mention Great Sage, even Transcendent Realms Master would probably not be as rich as him. In this evenly matched situation, Yi Shiwen constantly bombarded terrible attacks with the support of elixirs. Yahan was burning his blood essence. As a character of Great Sage Minor Mastery, blood essence was quite abundant, but it could not support a consumption rate like this. If there was none left, Yahan would die because of it. By that time, death was his only way out. As the battle became more and more fierce, the two went all the way from the south region into the starry sky. The south region had too many limitations imposed by the world. Despite being able to puncture the space, they would still be constrained by the power of the world so as to stop them from destroying this world. The legendary character who could destroy a world with merely only one spear attack was just a legend. Most people couldn't do it. If the damage was too severe, they would be repulsed by the power of the world, so they would rather fight all the way to the universe. As the battle continued to escalate, Yahan gradually realized he was not as strong as he wished. Half of his blood essence was burned up. He could continue the stalemate with Yi Shiwen. Although Yi Shiwen also burned 1 billion elixir, it was not a big deal as compared to Yahan. Another murderous intent suddenly crossed in Yahan's eyes. I must not let Yi Shiwen survive. Die. He made another move. The surrounding changed its color. Innumerable spiritual energy in the universe condensed in an instant. It was all contaminated into demon aura in an instant. A long spear slowly condensed. It had the size of a mountain, emitting an unimaginable evil aura. Holy Destroyer Lance. Yi Shiwen's face suddenly changed. The trauma from Holy Destroyer Lance was too deep. How could he not remember that he almost fell directly from the air to his death last time due to Holy Destroyer Lance? Yahan seemed to have consumed endless energy. In a moment, his figure was a little crunched, his face was pale, and he seemed to be much older in an instant. This was the price he had to pay for forcibly launching this terrible demon art. Without the necessary criteria, he had to pay the price of his lifespan to forcefully manifest it. He had given all he had to slay Yi Shiwen. He knew that his blood essence could not support his fight with Yi Shiwen endlessly. If he continued the fight, he might be the one who suffered, or even experienced a tragic death on the spot. He could only come with a final blow in an attempt to bring an ending to it. The terrifying long spear instantly cut through the universe and shattered anything it passed through, even if it was just a phantom or a projection of spirit. However, this holy destroyer lance still made Yi Shiwen feel the breath of destruction, as if it had returned to the prehistoric times in legend. Yi Shiwen, be careful, dodge quickly. Yi Mo shouted quickly, otherwise let Star Beast avatars stop it. It's too late. Yi Shiwen shouted, his hands spread out, and a bloody barrier appeared in front of him. It was the power of Tianyuan Mirror. Boom! The phantom of Holy Destroyer Lance slammed onto the bloody barrier in front of Yi Shiwen in an instant. It happened too fast without giving Yi Shiwen any time to react. It came to him instantly. A terrible impact instantly swept through, creating waves of huge energy frenzy crashed onto the bloody barrier. Crack! It was an alarming crisp sound. Even in that terrible energy frenzy, it was unusually conspicuous. On the spear tip of the Holy Destroyer Lance's phantom, crack marks appeared on the bloody barrier. The crack was slowly spreading out in all directions, giving off the signs that it could collapse in any second. Yi Shiwen screamed. Under the direction of his spirit, 1,000,000 elixirs instantly burned into flaming spiritual energy, and then all of it was instilled on that bloody barrier. After consuming another 100 million elixir, it finally stabilized the bloody barrier that was about to collapse. Yi Shiwen was able to breathe a sigh of relief. If the bloody barrier broke down just now, he would probably be nailed to the ground by Holy Destroyer Lance on the spot. There was no doubt that it was his luck to escape the last time, as he fell onto the land of true martial school with someone rescuing him. There would be no one rescuing him this time around, let the long Nyehan was still around. Roar! Nyehan on the side suddenly roared like a furious beast after seeing Yi Shiwen actually blocked it. All the blood essence formed waves of demon aura, which was added to the Holy Destroyer Lance. Both sides actually fell into a stalemate for a while. Yi Shiwen kept burning elixir in the numbers of 100 million every second. However, he was still indifferent about it. Nyehan was also constantly burning his own blood essence, trying to slay Yi Shiwen. Boom! Under a huge blast, that Holy Destroyer Lance could not support itself and disappeared into a cluster of demon aura. After all, it was not an entity, but just a projection of spirit. On the other side, Nyehan was already skinny like twigs, completely missing the tall and majestic figure just now. Even though he just summoned Holy Destroyer Lance's spirit for a little while, it extracted all his blood essence. He was desperate as he made a gamble to slay Yi Shiwen. If he succeeded, everything would be fine for him. But he was defeated in Yi Zaiwen's hands in the end. Chapter 754. Return to True Martial School. Boom! Yi Shiwen slashed out directly. The sharp sword chi burst out and killed Nyehan on the spot, splattering blood everywhere. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen felt a terrifying aura locked on him. What kind of aura is this? It's like the beasts from ancient barrens. Spanning time and space, the aura locked on Yi Shiwen from a distant empty area. Yi Shiwen did not dare to delay further. He immediately fanned his demon wings and rushed toward the true martial domain. In the blink of an eye, he had already fled back into the true martial domain. Not long after he left, a skinny old man suddenly appeared here. He was almost as skinny as Nyehan when all his blood essences were consumed. It was originally a close-fitting outfit, and yet it seemed like a big coat after being worn on him. His face was pale, and a pair of ghost-like eyes glinted in doubts. I felt the battle just now. How come it is gone? The skinny old man was puzzled as he looked around. There was the aura of Holy Destroyer Lance. How come it is gone? It should be Nyehan's aura. My senses will not be wrong. Nyehan actually died here. I wonder who is the expert behind it? The expert actually killed him. This is unbelievable. The old man obviously knew Nyehan, but he was not sad about it at all. However, now that the true martial domain is in chaos, any kind of master may appear. I should go back to the saint's altar first. There was a ripple in his surrounding space. His body entered the ripple and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Yi Shiwen didn't know what happened after he left, but when he was locked on by that terrible aura just now, it made him feel like he was stabbed, a hunch that big troubles were coming. It was the so-called sixth sense. He almost felt his back drenched with sweat at once. Even the black-robed man in half-step transcendent realm did not give off such a hunch. There was only one possibility. It was a master in transcendent realm. Only the transcendent realm master could make Yi Shiwen, who was able to kill great sage minor mastery, feel that the world was collapsing. With the thought of being spotted by the transcendent realm master just now, Yi Shiwen felt he was lucky that it was over. It was definitely a transcendent realm master just now. I'm sure. At this time, next to Yi Shiwen, Wolf Cub started to jump up and down. When Yi Shiwen and Yahan were fighting, it just entered the Tianyuan mirror directly to rest. It was not that it did not want to help, but Yi Shiwen would not let it participate. Yi Shiwen wanted to kill Yahan personally. Moreover, in his view, even if he wasn't confident with his main body, he still had his Star Beast avatar. No matter how Yi Shiwen sees it, this Yahan was dead for sure. It was just a matter of time. But the horrible aura just now passed into Tianyuan mirror at once, woke Wolf Cub up from its sleep, and it instantly jumped out. After Yi Shiwen was sure that he had escaped the range of perception from the horrifying aura, he finally slowed down. That scares me to death. Fortunately, you escaped really fast. If you were to be any slower and got caught up by the Transcendent Realm Master, none of us can flee. Wolf Cub said with a lingering fear. Compared to Yi Shiwen, it knew better about how terrifying a Transcendent Realm Master was. It was hard for most people to imagine. I think you should hurry back to True Martial School. Although the fighting there is fierce, there are some Transcendent Realm Masters protecting the area. As long as you don't encounter any Transcendent Realm Masters, it is easy to escape without harm using your Star Beast avatar. Yi Shiwen nodded. Initially, he wanted to wander outside to kill the masters invading South Barbarian or demon-worshipping religion. However, after this matter, he changed his mind because Transcendent Realm Masters were too scary. Once they were noticed, it was simply a dead end. Even if they wanted to flee, it would be difficult. Although there were more Transcendent Realm Masters at True Martial School in the number uncountable with 2 hands, True Martial School also had Transcendent Realm Masters. With just the head of the top 10 legatees, there were 10 Transcendent Realm Masters already. No to mention there were other masters like Tibetan Star Sun, etc. These masters could completely protect him. Hence, True Martial School was safer as compared to wandering outside. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen and Wolf Cub flew away in the direction of True Martial School. Both Yi Shiwen and Wolf Cub had already made a name for themselves. Many masters of South Barbarian or demon-worshipping religion, who were about to make a move, saw Yi Shiwen and fled in fright. Despite Yi Shiwen heading to True Martial School, how could he let those people who troubled the South region off? Everywhere he passed, these rebellious organizations and masters were purged like how fields were plowed. When Yi Shiwen returned to True Martial School, he discovered that the entire True Martial School had become a huge battlefield. Under the support of countless arrays and the underground spiritual veins, a fierce light was exuded. The divine light blasted out and destroyed an army of Tao soldiers in an instant. However, Emergent School were not cowards either. They spreaded out their scrolls infused with arrays that had been sealed in advance. With that, they launched a fierce confrontation with True Martial School. The two sides were competing for almost every piece of land. Countless screams could be heard. Even Yi Shiwen could see that there were great sages participating in it. At this time, some geniuses on both sides had finally shown their strength. Only in this chaotic world could offer a stage for the genius to show their talents to the fullest. Under the impetus of this chaotic world, even if the war lasts only a few years, it would be enough to spawn a large number of young talents. Many people were approaching breakthroughs in these few years. The potential of people was endless, but it depended on the circumstances. This was the opportunity to hone them. Yi Shiwen could see the figure of senior brother Huang Wuji. Huang Wuji was towering and powerful. His aura seemed ruthless. It seemed he had already stepped into half-step transcendent realm. He was now leading the army and guarding one side. Go. Let's join the fight. Yi Shiwen noticed and said. For him, he also needed such a battle to sharpen his strength. Only by having enough strength could he stimulate the rapid growth in cultivation. Ever since he learned about the ancient Baron's continent from Yi Mo and Wolf Cub, his heart was overflowing with yearnings. Such a high plane might be his final stage. I don't have any opinions, but if any expert of Transcendent Realm gets involved, we will be crushed on the spot. Wolf Cub said, raising its eyelids. It was different from Yi Shiwen. Yi Zaiwen's talents were mediocre. Everything gained originated from battle. He paved his path from continuous killing. On the other hand, its talent was extremely strong, and it had a noble bloodline. Cultivation was as easy as a piece of cake for it too. Even if it slept all day long, the speed of its progress would still be shocking. Hence, it was far less eager for fighting than Yi Shiwen. It knew that risk came with rewards. But, in his opinion, there was a safe way to sneak into the true martial school. There was no need to take risks to break into the restricted area. Even if the Transcendent Realm Master makes a move, this place is so close to true martial school. I still have a great chance to escape. Yi Shiwen said, most important thing is that our true martial school side also has a Transcendent Master. Yes, this is the best way to hone yourself. Even if a Transcendent Realm Master is there, you have the opportunity to escape. This is the best training for you. Don't you see Huang Wuji? How long hasn't I seen him that he has already stepped into half-step Transcendent Realm initial while your progress is still behind him? It is all because you haven't encountered any real danger previously. If you can continue to fight under Transcendent Realm Master's eyes, then your progress can reach an extreme speed. Yi Mo said aloud. He strongly supported Yi Shiwen. Okay, I don't mind. Since I'm here to stir trouble, then let's turn the world upside down. Ha! Wolf Cub laughed. Its bloodline power was awakened. It was not as attached to using battle to hone himself like Yi Shiwen, but it was not a peacekeeper. Yi Shiwen and Wolf Cub did not take any pause at all. They rushed directly into the army of Emergent School. Emergent School had committed all they had this time. Tao soldiers that were trained for many years were fully revealed at this time, embodying the profound and terrible background of Emergent School. Their worst would be legendary. Truth Power Realm had no rights to be present among them despite Truth Warriors could kill thousands of ordinary fighters in this battlefield. However, for Yi Shiwen, these were the foundation of his wealth in his plunder. Although each of them did not have a lot of wealth, it would be a huge wealth to gather them together. Ha, I am here. Wolf Cub laughed wildly. Chapter 755. Invincible. The two figures dashed into the Emergent School's army like bombshells. Wherever they passed, the disciples of Emergent School screamed in agony. Yi Shiwen and Wolf Cub were simply too powerful. Yi Shiwen had stepped into the Great Sage Intermediate. His combat power allowed him to kill Great Sage Minor Mastery easily. Even though Wolf Cub was a little weaker than Yi Shiwen, it was not a problem for it to defeat those in Great Sage Peak. This pair was famous in the South region. Their name would terrify the South barbarian and demon-worshipping religion. With that, Yi Shiwen had also made a name for himself as a strong talent in the true martial domain. Although Yi Shiwen was well known in the past, it was to the extent of the Sage Realm at that time. Sage Realm might be a king in a place like Yuan Sect, but it was not a big deal in true martial domain. Such a person in the true martial domain was so abundant like the sand of the Ganges River. Yi Zaiwen's name was finally praised when he had demonstrated his tyrannical strength in the Great Sage Realm. Although his Star Beast avatar was not commonly utilized, it would be a great battle every time it was dispatched, especially after killing someone in Great Sage Great Perfection. Great Sage Great Perfection composed of heroes like Huang Wuji, Mu Shengjie, and many other distinguished figures. They were famous for many years, signifying an absolute strength that terrified people. But in the end, they were all defeated in the hands of Yi Shiwen. All their wealth fell into Yi Zaiwen's hand. At the same time, they also established Yi Zaiwen's current fame in their defeat. In the Emergent School's army, there were traces of various arrays almost everywhere. They said, human powers are limited, but it will be limitless to utilize the power of heaven and earth. These arrays were set up by utilizing the power of heaven and earth to defeat the enemy. The arrays from both sides collided with one another, especially those legendary warriors. They could contend with Sage Realm Masters by just relying on the arrays. This simply went against common sense. Moreover, those who came into contact with the arrays later would be greatly suppressed too. But for Yi Shiwen, it was nothing. The heaven's might released on the array was a stimulant to growth. Yi Shiwen covered his whole body with divinity. The suppression brought by the array was ineffective to Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen was indifferent to those arrays. A long sword appeared in his hand. He thrust it to his enemy directly. The sword glinted here and there every time it was slashed. In every slash, it marked the fall of a legend. Even a Sage Realm Master was directly stabbed to death in one attack. Yi Ziwen's movements were so simple that it was not even an intimidating sword art. Only the most basic sword art was utilized. It was not complicated at all. However, unimaginable power exuded in Yi Ziwen's hands. A set of basic sword art had become the supreme art for mass slaughter. It was also helpful to temper Yi Shiwen. Sometimes for a master who is strong enough, everything is no avail in front of its pure strength. Whether it is a powerful martial technique or even an ultimate technique, in front of his absolute strength, they became illusory. Beside him, Wolf Cub was psyched up. It had grown to the size of a small hill. After a small pause, its figure grew bigger at a rate faster than how it grew bigger previously. He moved like a gust of swift wind. Any place he passed by despite not doing much, the disciples of Emergent School were already dead. All of it happened as it charged around violently. Tao soldiers' phalanx were shattered at once. They were unable to stop it. The two cooperated very well. First, Wolf Cub directly rushed into the phalanx of the Emergent School's disciples or Tao soldiers. After terrible chaos, it directly destroyed the formation. During the time when they were in great fear, Yi Shiwen would arrive. Blood splattered everywhere with Yi Ziwen's most basic sword art. Each blood splatter marked the death of a master in the hands of Yi Shiwen. Although Yi Shiwen did not have a distinguished sword art, his killing speed was not slower than Wolf Cub, but even faster. His physical body was too strong, so the speed was extremely fast. In just a split second, Yi Shiwen had thrust his sword hundreds of times. Anywhere the sword crossed, there would be another corpse piles of Emergent School disciples. The vast majority of them didn't even know how they died, and they couldn't know how Yi Shiwen made a move. The sword tip had thrust in their throats, and a splendid blood flower bloomed. They were killed just like that with their wealth completely robbed at the same time. In the past few months, the two cooperated many times. Facing a similar situation again, they cooperated very well. Their blood essence was absorbed by Tianyuan Mirror in an instant. Bloody light was surging in the sky. It was quite peculiar at first glance. After all, Tianyuan Mirror itself was a treasure of demon attributes. Hence, it was horrifying. If not because of Yi Mo taking control, even the owner, Yi Shiwen, might get affected. This was also the case of many demonic treasures. Although it was powerful, it often came along with great aftermath. This was also the way that demon domain. Power was always pursued. Anything was acceptable with absolute power. Anything would be impossible without absolute power. Tianyuan Mirror attained growth by absorbing blood essence, which was basically a common thing for Yemo. In demon domain, there were many demon clan members who died under Tianyuan Mirror under many years of campaigns led by demons. Yi Shiwen wasn't bothered with it. He would keep hunting down these people from Emergent School. They were all enemies in his heart. Each death was his gain. The cooperation of the duo was like a giant bulldozer. Any Emergent School disciples' formation collapsed in the encounter. Wherever the battle went, the formation of Emergent School collapsed. Tao soldiers were crushed. One master after another was killed in their hands. Even if there was a great sage coming to retaliate while leading the Tao soldiers' legion, they were not afraid at all. After the great sage was defeated by the duo, the army had no leader. Yi Shiwen and Wolf Cub crushed them completely. A lot of blood essence was infused into Tianyuan mirror, making Tianyuan mirror's aura more and more powerful. This was a rare opportunity. Not only because Yi Shiwen could plunder the wealth of these masters, but it was an opportunity for Tianyuan mirror to absorb those blood essence for a breakthrough. How would there be so many legendary warriors to be killed during peaceful times? They were like fertilizers waiting in line to be killed. Even a few months ago, there were often teams of South barbarian or demon-worshipping religion masters in the South region. However, it did not arrive in a situation like this. The huge army should be at least 10 million. No one knew the actual number of emergent school army. Yi Shiwen and Wolf Cub were just like a stone thrown into the sea. After setting off a wave, they were quickly swarmed. No matter how many they killed, there would always be more masters coming. So, Yi Shiwen did not utilize his Shattered Star Fist. Although Shattered Star Fist had great power, it also consumed a lot of energy. Facing the infinite emergent school disciples, Yi Shiwen would die for running dry on Qi first before the fight would end. Of course, the possibility of it was highly likely. Even if Yi Shiwen tried to conserve Qi as much as possible, the battle took place at a fast rate. It was conceivable the consumption would be large if Shattered Star Fist was utilized. Anyway, as long as he could achieve the purpose of killing the enemy, he would not care about what move to use. However, with the combination of Yi Shiwen and Wolf Cub, they continued to penetrate into the depths of the emergent school army. Of course, the resistance they encountered was getting more intense. The chances of encountering great sage masters were getting higher too. Of course, the death count of the great sage under Yi Ziwen's hands also increased accordingly. Finally, it attracted the attention of the experts in emergent school. After Yi Shiwen bombarded a great sage disciple of emergent school, he was surrounded by many great sages before he could continue his pursuit on the ordinary Tao soldiers and disciples who were scattered. These great sages had a terrifying aura even if they were far away. It was an aura born from numerous campaigns and wars. The leader of the group had already entered the half-step transcendent realm too. It was an elite team from emergent school. A great sage great mastery, or a great sage great perfection realm master was adequate to lead a huge army. Right now, all of them were gathered in a small team under the lead of half-step transcendent realm. The status of this team was apparent. Now this elite team had rushed to Yi Shiwen. It was conceivable that the mass killing of Yi Shiwen had already attracted the attention of the experts in emergent school. What a kiddo from true martial school. You actually pushed your battle to here. I wonder how many disciples of emergent school died in your hands. Now it's time for your death. It is rare for true martial school to have a bold disciple like you, said the half-step transcendent realm master with a sneer. He was a middle-aged man of ordinary appearance, but with a bit of arrogance. For him, Yi Shiwen was nothing. He was already a half-step transcendent realm master. Even if he was only half-step, it still took on the words of transcendent realm. He was already different from great sage. Although he marveled that Yi Shiwen dared to rush here, he was just a little surprised. But your good luck should stop here. The half-step transcendent realm master yelled all of a sudden as his punch moved toward Yi Shiwen. Chapter 756. Directly tore it apart. It was Emergent's godly fist which instantly formed the Holy Kingdom on the battlefield. In emergent school, this Emergent's godly fist was widely spread. Many masters more or less knew something about Emergent's godly fist, but there were some differences. Masters of different levels would be taught in Emergent's godly fist of different calibers. The half-step transcendent realm middle-aged man had almost attained the complete version of Emergent's godly fist. He committed an all-out attack at his first move, trying to kill Yi Shiwen in one blow, so as not to waste time. As a matter of fact, his elite team existed to deal with this sudden situation. All of the efforts were to prevent true martial school's experts from suddenly breaking into their line, disrupting their formation. For real masters, the number of people could no longer be regarded as an influencing factor. The battle between real masters would shock the world. Any number of legendary masters sent were just cannon fodder. Any effort in adding man count would be futile. Dispatching another master would be the only way. There was more than one elite team like this. Many of such elite teams were dispersed around the main attacking force. Yi Shiwen was obviously a dangerous enemy, which required him to deal with personally. However, it was only a little troublesome in his eyes. After all, he felt condescended to personally deal with a great sage. As a matter of fact, he was in half-step transcendent realm. He felt Yi Zaiwen's death was too honored. Yi Shiwen instantly felt a horrifying punch. It enveloped him from all corners at once. The Holy Kingdom seemingly broke through the gap in time and swooshed down. This half-step transcendent realm master accumulated a few inspirations that allowed him to exert the power of Emergence Godly Fist, thus bringing out the real horror behind it. Retreat back to Tanyuan Mirror. Yi Shiwen shouted and shot out a blood light. The wolf cub was retrieved into Tianyuan Mirror. He had a tacit understanding with Wolf Cub. When Yi Shiwen encountered an overwhelming master who was difficult to deal with, it would enter Tianyuan Mirror to take refuge and call out Star Beast Avatar. When that blood light waves were over, Yi Shiwen was still standing, but Star Beast Avatar had replaced his main body. At this time, Yi Shiwen finally made his move. He squeezed his 5 fingers into a fist and bombarded it. Shattered Star Fist, the boundless fist, instantly blasted out a huge star. The surrounding space suddenly became a cosmos. It was shrouded by Yi Zaiwen's fist will. In a split second, it came crashing down and slammed into the Holy Kingdom. Boom! The terrible fist of both sides collided. 2 completely different fists crushed the space in between while kept devouring each other. A huge mushroom cloud bursts out. The terrible impact swept out and countless legendary realm warriors were directly bombarded by this terrible force. All their physical bodies completely collapsed. They eventually turned into a mass of blood mist under their agonizing scream. When half-step transcendent realm masters had a fight, the shockwaves emitted from it were not something they could withstand. With merely this confrontation, it created a huge empty space. The Great Sage Great Mastery Masters and the Great Sage Great Perfection Masters in the team had to muster all they could to protect themselves from the shockwaves. They retreated all the way from their original spots. Those who were closed had no way to dodge it. They were all inflicted with internal injuries. However, they were still better off than those legendary masters who turned into masses of blood mist due to the shockwave. Half-step transcendent realm? The middle-aged man saw that Yi Shiwen turned out to be a half-step transcendent realm master. Not only did he not have any fear, but he was excited. Just like true martial school, the situation at Emergence School was the same. As long as one could kill a master of true martial school, he or she could get a lot of benefits. However, was the true martial school's master easy to be killed? Most of them situated themselves in the arrays, as if hiding in a turtle shell. Unless the arrays were broken through, there was no way to kill them. Even if there were some rare talents who fought next to the arrays, once there was anything that was not right, they would hide into the arrays immediately. These would render Emergent School's warriors made futile efforts. All in all, the benefits of geographical advantages were fully displayed. True martial school fought in their home ground. When Emergent School launched a campaign from a faraway place, this itself was already a huge disadvantage. If it was not the strength of Emergent School that had an overwhelming advantage, they simply couldn't afford a campaign to conquer true martial school. Generally, Sage Realm Masters and even the Great Sage Masters were not attractive to the middle-aged man. Although there were many rewards, these rewards were very ugly for him. After all, he was already a half-step transcendent realm. The resources and wealth he needed were far beyond what Great Sage could imagine. Although many a mickle makes a muckle, most people in the true martial school were hiding in arrays. The Emergent School could only kill all the disciples of true martial school in one breath if they managed to break into the arrays. Otherwise, there was no way to accomplish it. Even if the Emergent School broke into the arrays, the middle-aged man might face competition from other experts of Emergent School while at the same time face the attack of the transcendent realm of true martial school. So for him, this system was not in any way helpful. However, the emergence of Yi Shiwen made him feel excited. With the emergence of Yi Shiwen, the situation would be completely different. Beheading a half-step Transcendent Realm Master definitely offered massive points. The points were completely different from killing the Great Sage and Sage Realm Masters. So what occupied his mind now was to kill Yi Shiwen before the other half-step Transcendent Realm Masters noticed it. With that, he could redeem enormous points. Most importantly, the wealth of a master of half-step Transcendent Realm must be at an unimaginable level. He could make a fortune by killing one. As for the possibility of Yi Zaiwen's escape, he didn't even think about it. In this place, there was no way for Yi Shiwen to escape. He was surrounded by people from Emergent School in all directions. As for the situation where Yi Shiwen might kill him, it would never appear in his mind anymore. A warrior who could cultivate to the level of half-step Transcendent Realm was definitely a talent. They definitely were a distinguished genius which made fame for themselves in battle. Naturally, they were the most confident in themselves and firmly believed that they were invincible. At this time, he would naturally not think about the worst situation that could happen. Haha, I really didn't expect you to be a half-step Transcendent Realm warrior. You actually disguised as a great sage. You're really cunning. I guess you're probably trying to deceive our Emergent School disciples. It's a pity that you met me, and your good luck ends here. Since you actually made it into the most central area, I think your luck is still not that bad. The middle-aged man had delightful emotions on his face. He squeezed his 5 fingers into a fist. As he launched his fist so swiftly, the flutter of the clothes was allowed. The terrible fist was crushed down and turned into the Holy Kingdom. The Kingdom of Immortality, the Kingdom of Holy Realm Dwellers. Countless Holy Realm Dwellers lived and played in it, and countless Holy Realm Dwellers' troops were practicing in it. The system was strict like a country. In the sky, there were countless Holy Realm Dwellers singing in Sanskrit, singing songs that blessed eternal life. It appeared beautiful, but behind it represented a terrifying fighting power. Yi Shiwen sneered. As soon as the middle-aged man said his words, Yi Shiwen knew what the middle-aged man was thinking. He even wanted to behead Yi Shiwen in exchange for points before the other masters arrived. But this was a good sign. It enabled Yi Shiwen an opportunity to fight with the middle-aged man alone. With that, he could retreat fully after killing the middle-aged man. If there were several other half-step Transcendent Realm Masters at this time, Yi Shiwen could only flee immediately and spread his demon wings without hesitation. Otherwise, he might actually be beheaded on the spot. This was not what he wanted. He just wanted to hone himself. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen chanted his battle cry. His body stood upright suddenly. It was covered with golden divinity as if he was a gold-casted battle god. He rushed towards the middle-aged man in everyone's surprise. This move allowed him to fight with the middle-aged man solely on physical quality. In the battlefield led by Emergent School, Yi Shiwen had to be wary for his every move. Any hindrance would lead to big trouble. Despite this middle-aged man not wanting the other half-step Transcendent Realm Master to join in, it would be inevitable that the other half-step Transcendent Realm Masters would participate in the fight sooner or later. By that time, even if Yi Shiwen defeated him, it would still be difficult for him to escape. Yi Shiwen would need to defeat the middle-aged man before the situation turned bad. Yi Zaiwen's most prominent strength would be his physical body. Although he did not use his real body, Star Beast Avatar's physical body was so powerful without question. It was not worse than his tyrant body. Of course, when his tyrant body steps into half-step Transcendent Realm in the future, it might be even stronger than Star Beast Avatar. But even so, this was a horrifying body that could compete with the Dragon Clan. Yi Shiwen even rushed directly into the Holy Kingdom. With his tyrannical strength, Yi Shiwen tore the Holy Kingdom into half. The profundities in the middle-aged man's fist were torn apart in an instant. Emergence and Holy Realm Dwellers were simply illusory. It perished without leaving any trace behind. The countless Holy Realm Dwellers screamed in agony. Their defeat painted Yi Shiwen like a bloody demon. Chapter 757. Catch a turtle in the jar. It was quite an intimidating scene. Emergent's godly fist besieged Yi Shiwen, and yet it did not manage to leave a scratch. The divinity on his body was resurrected in an instant as though he had become a deity. Despite it being the deity of Beast Clan, each one was towering and mighty. They were all imposing divine. All of them protected Yi Zaiwen's body from being hurt by Emergent's godly fist will. Moreover, Yi Shiwen had the physical body of a star beast, a terrifying creature that feeds on the universe, and even hunted Dragon Clan's members. All of these enabled Yi Shiwen to tear apart Emergent's holy kingdom on the spot. This made the middle-aged man suddenly depressed and wanted to vomit blood. Everyone at Emergent School who cultivated Emergent's godly fist had different calibers of holy kingdom. All of them incorporated their Tao in it. All his understanding of the Tao and Emergent's godly fist were integrated, leading to the illusory scene. However, when it was torn apart, it was equivalent to tearing his Tao apart. This feeling was disastrous. How can you be so powerful? The middle-aged man simply found it unbelievable. He couldn't believe that Yi Shiwen could tear his fist will apart so easily. But he didn't know that although Yi Zaiwen's Star Beast avatar had just entered the half-step transcendent realm not long ago, he was definitely not a novice. With the blood essence and power transmitted by the adult Star Beast, he had reached the peak of half-step transcendent realm initial. With the terrible fighting talent of Star Beast avatar, he was akin invincible. Even the half-step transcendent realm intermediate master couldn't kill him, he could handle it calmly. This was his biggest card after all. Although this middle-aged man was also quite powerful, he even cultivated the half-step transcendent realm, but how could he compare with the unique clan like Star Beast? What's impossible? You are too ignorant. Yi Shiwen sneered. With the blood essence and power passed by the adult Star Beast, he could even step into half-step transcendent realm intermediate at any second. He was only a tiny gap away, making it possible to happen very soon. In this realm, he was not fearful in the battlefield. But he might get defeated after getting besieged by a couple of transcendent realm masters. Yi Shiwen had rushed in front of the middle-aged man amidst the exchange of words. Boom! Yi Shiwen struck the middle-aged man with a punch. A huge star was manifested and it exploded on his body. A terrible and unparalleled power was rushing in it, boiling up, and constantly raising a vertical airflow. The middle-aged man suddenly spat out blood, and his figure flew out, unable to withstand such a force. Yi Zaiwen's full blow was terrible. Moreover, the middle-aged man did not have such a strong physical body as Yi Shiwen. He was seriously injured after sustaining the full attack. Kill him. At this time, the Great Sage Great Mastery Masters and Great Sage Great Perfection Masters couldn't sit still. They were the middle-aged man's underlings who were put under the lead of this middle-aged man for a long time. All of them had the potential to step into the half-step transcendent in the future. They couldn't sit idle and see the middle-aged man get killed. At this time, all of them launched their attack. More than a dozen Great Sage Great Mastery Masters and the Great Sage Great Perfection Masters launched their attack collectively. It was a terrifying force. Their mighty vigor covered the sky in an instant. It was not weaker than the middle-aged man just now. If Yi Zaiwen's main body was here, he could only escape desperately at this time, and might even fail in doing so. However, with the Star Beast avatar, he was indifferent to it. The gap between half-step transcendent realm and Great Sage sufficed for him to ignore these attacks. As Yi Zaiwen's hand grabbed forward, a mirror appeared in his hand. It was Tianyuan mirror. The endless red light on Tianyuan mirror burst out suddenly. In Yi Zaiwen's hand, Tianyuan mirror, a Great Sage tool, burst out in great vigor. The terrible power was far from being comparable in the hands of the main body. This was like a Great Sage using a Sage tool. Even if it was not his own Sage tool, it might exert the terrible power that even the original owner of the Sage tool did not think of. This was the role of cultivation strength. Moreover, Yi Shiwen was the owner of Tianyuan mirror. In the hands of Yi Shiwen, blood light exuded from the Tianyuan mirror, which condensed into a blood pool. It was the projection of the blood pool in Tianyuan mirror that appeared in the sky. Boom! What? A Great Sage Great Mastery Master was struck by the blood pool on the spot. He was drowned directly in the boundless blood waves. With the addition of Yi Ziwen's own power and Tianyuan Mirror's power, this great sage great mastery screamed in agony on the spot. His entire figure was vaporized. All of his blood essence was absorbed by Tianyuan Mirror. Ha! What a wonderful feeling! Only the blood essence of such a master is useful. Yi Mo's rampant laughter appeared in Yi Ziwen's mind. Yi Shiwen, go all out and slaughter them. I have a hunch. As long as the slaughter continues, the promotion of Tianyuan Mirror is not a problem at all. When the promotion of Tianyuan Mirror is completed, even if you meet the Master of Transcendent Realm, you can escape with ease. Ha! Yi Shiwen nodded. He also knew that the current Tianyuan Mirror had reached a bottleneck. Tianyuan Mirror had become a great sage tool many years ago. For many years, it had absorbed many blood essences from different masters. In the past few months, it had absorbed many great sages' blood essence. It could be said that it had already entered the peak of the great sage tool, but it was still unable to evolve. Yi Shiwen knew that quantitative changes caused qualitative changes. Right now, he lacked enough quantitative changes. Hence, he would need to kill more blood essences of Great Sage and even blood essences of Half-Step Transcendent Realm to feed Tianyuan Mirror and upgrade it. However, Yi Ziwen's actions were not slow at all. Under the control of Yi Shiwen, the blood pool kept suppressing the enemy. The Great Sage Great Mastery Masters and the Great Sage Great Perfection Masters were all under Yi Ziwen's pressure. They exploded on the spot and turned into a cluster of blood mist one by one. Then, the Tianyuan Mirror absorbed them into it. Yi Shiwen extracted all of their wealth at the same time too. These Great Sage Masters were tyrannical. They obviously accumulated many wealth. Just because of them, Yi Shiwen harvested more than 5 billion elixir. If it was in the past, it would be an astronomical figure for Yi Shiwen. But Yi Shiwen treated it much calmer now. He finally understood why those people with higher cultivation did not care about the so-called wealth, because they could be plundered at will. As long as one participated in constant killing, he or she could obtain as much wealth as they wish. Of course, Yi Shiwen also knew that this opportunity might only happen once in this life. If it was not the case of the invasion of Emergent School, how could there be such a large group of Great Sage supplemented for him to kill? If Great Sage was killed one at the time like during the past, the plundering speed was unmatched to the current speed. Those Great Sages turned into blood mist in agonizing screams. They couldn't imagine how tyrannical Yi Shiwen was. He did not bat an eye on the tyrannical strength of Great Sages. After all, they were only one step away from Half-Step Transcendent Realm. Unfortunately, this step had a stark difference. After absorbing the blood essence from these Great Sages, the Tianyuan Mirror shone even brighter. Yi Shiwen could even feel that the space in the Tianyuan Mirror was also continuously expanding. At this rate, the space inside the Tianyuan Mirror could be developed into a size close to a domain sooner or later. A domain which might not be inferior to a big world like true martial domain. It was a bright path. Yi Shiwen didn't know if he had the opportunity to wait until that day, just like he didn't know whether his lifespan permitted him to witness a fully grown Mingxin ancient tree. In the Tianyuan Mirror, images of Demon Clan began to appear on the original quaint patterns. It included the Great Demon Clan, Azura Clan, etc. All the famous clans in Demon Domain appeared in the image. This was the scene when Tianyuan Mirror was about to evolve. When the time comes for the Tianyuan Mirror to complete the evolution, it would become even more terrifying. It would be the real commandment in the Demon Clan world. None of them could defile it. With that, it was entirely possible for Yi Shiwen to become the king of Demon Domain. Yi Mo is so confident that he wants to lift him to the Demon King throne. Naturally, he also has his confidence. Damn, how could this be? The middle-aged man's eyes were about to bleed, and he looked at his carefully trained team. In front of Yi Shiwen, it was like a pig and he was easily beheaded and turned into a group of blood mist. How could he be so powerful? In his eyes, the fire of hatred almost surged to the sky, but he did not dare to be hesitant. He immediately turned around and fled. With just one exchange of blows, it made him understand that Yi Ziwen's strength was far beyond his imagination. It was unattainable to him. If he were to contend with Yi Shiwen, let alone his well-trained team, even he himself must be sacrificed. Thinking of this, he did not dare to delay. He immediately turned into a cluster of light and fled away. You want to flee? Yi Shiwen sneered. He immediately sensed it, but how could he let go of this half-step transcendent realm master? The Tianyuan mirror was going to evolve. The blood essence of a great sage master was no longer useful. Yi Shiwen could only rely on the half-step transcendent realm masters. He immediately stowed out in pursuit. Tianyuan mirror exuded the boundless blood barrier and locked the space all at once. The middle-aged man who wanted to escape suddenly became a turtle trapped in the jar. There was no way to escape. Chapter 758. Emergence of Transcendent Realm Warrior. In the outskirts of true martial school, Huang Wuji led a legion to defend a territory. Transcendent Realm Masters existed as a general reserve team and would not make a move in general situations. They were only dispatched with the emergence of another Transcendent Realm Master. Otherwise, it might really escalate the battle too intensely, which would directly lead to the fall of a large number of Transcendent Realm Masters. This was unacceptable to both parties. For true martial school, they would need to conserve their forces even if they were to emerge victoriously. That was of utmost importance to cope with the many other forces that eye covetously on true martial school. At the same time, it was the same for the emergent school. The loss of Great Sage was not a big deal. However, sacrificing too many Transcendent Realm Masters for the victory would be Pyrrhic. It didn't make much sense. Boom! Huang Wuji was like an emperor among the mortals. He was domineering. The sword in his hand was even bigger than his body. Between each slash, horrifying golden long dragons were formed directly, whistling and rushing out. Any Sage Realm Warriors and Legendary Realm Warriors were torn apart in an instant. There was no way for them to contend with his existence. Huang Wuji had stepped into half-step Transcendent Realm. It was a piece of cake to slaughter these Sage Realm Warriors and Legendary Realm Warriors. At the same time, he knew there wasn't much opportunity for this slaughter. He did leave a fatal injury on the half-step Transcendent Realm of the Emergent School whom he was facing. Although he did not manage to kill his opponent, it gave a window of opportunity. Sure enough, he would take this chance to kill more enemies. Sooner or later, another half-step Transcendent Realm Master would be dispatched to protect this place. He would then lose the opportunity to continue the slaughter like this. Suddenly, he noticed a commotion in the large formation of Emergent School far away in the distance. The Emergent School formation completely collapsed as two figures commenced their slaughter. One person and one wolf cooperated very well. Even as they directly penetrated into the center of Emergent School's army formation, their speed was not hindered. In the end, half-step Transcendent Realm Master led an elite team to come in person. While Huang Wuji was still thinking about who it was, he suddenly found out that the person was too familiar. That's my junior brother, right? It turns out to be my junior brother? Huang Wuji was a little surprised, looking at the invincible presence in the large formation of Emergent School. But what he didn't anticipate was that Yi Shiwen could even kill a half-step Transcendent Realm Master. Under Yi Ziwen's attack, the half-step Transcendent Realm Master suffered numerous defeats. In the past few years, it was clear that Yi Shiwen had greatly improved. However, his achievement was far beyond the past. When Yi Shiwen defeated Mu Xingjie previously, the opponent was only in Great Sage Great Perfection. It had a stark difference with Transcendent Realm. It hadn't been a long while yet Yi Shiwen attained half-step Transcendent Realm. Huang Wuji also stepped into the half-step Transcendent Realm not long ago, so he was very sensitive to that aura and was certain that he would not be mistaken about it. What a disciple! Yi Shiwen actually develops into this stage. It is really fortunate for Tibetan Star Summit. Did heaven send my junior brother to revitalize the true martial school? But after seeing Yi Shiwen surrounding, there were a few half-step Transcendent Realm Masters who came from far to surround Yi Shiwen. If they were not concerned about the middle-aged man who was held hostage, Yi Shiwen would already be killed. Huang Wuji understood what they were thinking. These masters intended to treat Yi Shiwen as a prey, a prey with a lot of wealth. However, they did not want to shoulder the middle-aged man's blame. Thinking of this, Huang Wuji felt that he could not continue to wait. Although Yi Shiwen was powerful, it was very dangerous to dive so deep into Emergent School's army formation. A master of Transcendent Realm might come out to kill Yi Shiwen at any time. Huang Wuji turned around and flew towards the interior of True Martial School. He wanted to ask for help from the seniors in the sect. On the other side, Yi Ziwen's speed was so fast. He had already caught up with the middle-aged man in a moment. When his fist swooshed down, it instantly blocked any escape path. Them. Go to die. Yi Shiwen forced the middle-aged man into a dead end. Since he could not escape this time, he decided to fight with his life. He already knew the gap between him and Yi Shiwen was great enough to harm his life. He no longer wanted to kill Yi Shiwen to earn points. The thoughts in his mind were simply, he had to drag the time until after half-step Transcendent Realm came in aid, or even better, a Transcendent Realm Master. By that time, he would be able to kill this damn guy. In his heart, he hated Yi Shiwen very much. If it weren't for Yi Shiwen, how could he be in such a poor state? Not only was the team he elaborately trained destroyed in Yi Ziwen's hands, but he was being pursued and put under such shame. After all, he was supposedly half-step Transcendent Realm Master who was above countless people. He even burned his blood essence. The power in his whole body surged in an instant. He blasted out another Emergence Godly Fist on Yi Shiwen. However, Yi Shiwen was unfazed. He was much more tyrannical than previously. He launched another move and shattered the middle-aged man's attack. The Emergence Holy Kingdom formed under the Emergence Godly Fist collapsed directly. Then, it came another punch from the void. Bang! Yi Ziwen's fist was like a huge star as it collided upon the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man screamed in agony. His physical body disintegrated and was absorbed by Tianyuan Mirror. After absorbing this half-step Transcendent Realm Master, Tianyuan Mirror suddenly rose into the sky. Tianyuan Mirror finally began to change a little bit on its inner quality. For tools which had already reached the Great Sage Tool peak, the next step was on qualitative changes. This process would go slowly, taking an enormous amount of time. Killing Great Sage Masters and absorbing the blood essence would not bring much progress. Only the death of the half-step Transcendent Realm Master could stimulate Tianyuan Mirror's qualitative change. But how could such a master be killed so easily? Worse still, a mere 1 or 2 kill count was insufficient. The only way to allow Tianyuan Mirror to evolve at once was the death of the Transcendent Realm Master. However, Yi Shiwen would not dare to even think about it. Such masters were the top experts. The most appropriate prey right now was half-step Transcendent Realm Master. Although the speed was slower, it was still evolving. Come on, Yi Shiwen. Leave here quickly. You attracted enough attention already. Yi Mo quickly reminded. Even though he was in the comfort of absorbing the blood essence of a half-step Transcendent Realm Master, he had not lost his cool. He would not be able to digest the blood essence of this half-step Transcendent Realm Master in a moment and a half. They should leave after attaining the gains to prevent any losses. Although Yi Shiwen had killed a lot of Great Sage previously, it was still in small scale. The duo was quickly swarmed by the crowd. The situation had escalated when a half-step Transcendent Realm Master died on the spot. It was conceivable that it would shock the higher-ups of Emergent School. Yi Shiwen was not afraid of general warriors. However, if the higher-ups came, it would be disastrous. Where are you going? A thunderstorm-like sound rippled in the universe. It was as if the Holy Realm had descended. A terrifying aura instantly enveloped Yi Shiwen. Transcendent Realm. Yi Shiwen was shocked. This feeling was too familiar to him. When he killed Soul Destruction Temple Master previously, he was locked on by such a terrible aura. He fled in time back then, and he was not relentlessly pursued. However, Yi Shiwen was aware that it was definitely a Transcendent Realm Master. Right now, it must be the Transcendent Realm Master in Emergent School. He could only be regarded as a petty kid in the smaller scale fight. Even if Yi Shiwen killed many great sages, it would be nothing for Emergent School. In such a collision of superpowers, The death of a great sage would occur almost every once in a while. But the fall of a half-step Transcendent Realm Master was a big deal. It really caught the attention of the Transcendent Realm Master. A half-step Transcendent Realm Master actually got into the core position of Emergent School's army formation. It definitely stirred the anger of Emergent School's higher-ups. A half-step Transcendent Realm Master was worth the emergence of a Transcendent Realm Master. Immediately afterwards, a big hand covered the sky and collapsed from it. In front of such mighty power, it seemed that immortals, deities, and demons were illusory concepts. Only this power was eternal. Under normal circumstances, a half-step Transcendent Realm Master was not worth dirtying their hands. Their opponents would always be only those masters of the same level. But Yi Zaiwen's killing still alarmed the Emergent School's higher-ups. The death of a half-step Transcendent Realm Master still angered them. For Yi Shiwen, this was a big test, but it was not a dead end. Since entering the large formation of Emergent School, Yi Shiwen was ready to face the intervention of Transcendent Realm Masters anytime and anywhere. Even when dealing with the half-step Transcendent Realm Master, Yi Shiwen was still alerted, ready to escape at any time. Now, the Transcendent Realm Master had arrived. The pair of golden wings behind Yi Shiwen instantly unfolded. He infused the storm power, madly flew in the direction of true martial school. At this time, he had no other way but to escape. Although his Star Beast avatar had already stepped into half-step Transcendent Realm, he didn't even think about going against the Transcendent Realm Master. That was simply courting death. He could feel that the big hand behind him was getting closer and closer. This is terrifying. Chapter 759, Lucky? What a joke. That strength. In just a moment, Yi Shiwen felt the horror of that big hand. It was seemingly attached to his body, rendering him unable to escape. At this time, Yi Shiwen had flown out from the Emergent School army formation. Although the Emergent School's army position was now vast, which stretched out in miles, his current strong cultivation rendered him great speed. Crossing 100 miles in just a moment was not an exaggeration at all. However, the big hand behind him was still tightly approaching. It was getting closer and closer. Yi Shiwen knew he would get caught before he rushed into the true martial school. He decided to gamble his fate. I won't be able to flee this time. I have to fight. Yi Shiwen let out a huge cry in his heart. Dominate the world, rebirth the golden body in me. Yi Shiwen incarnated Tyrant Golden Buddha's scripture. There was a surge of divinity in his body, which formed a tall golden body. This was Yi Zaiwen's golden body divine manifestation. However, it could only be regarded as a fake and inferior counterfeit, imitating the gods and manifested the divine golden body. Despite it being a fake and inferior counterfeit, the divine golden body manifestation formed by countless divinity had a defensive power that was terrifying. It could even firmly sustain the attack of a half-step Transcendent Realm Master. Although it couldn't last for a long time, it was very useful for Yi Shiwen now. Even if it was only activated for a short while, that would be enough. What surrounded Yi Zaiwen's body was countless spiritual energy. All of them poured into this huge gold body manifestation to support it. Although this golden body was powerful, it also consumed a large amount of spiritual energy. Just to support it, it would have consumed 100 million elixirs. Boom! The palm fell directly from the depths of the sky. Any obstruction to it seemed so ridiculous. Yi Zaiwen's current strength was not weak, but he was fragile like an infant in front of this big hand. The big hand instantly grabbed toward his golden body. Crack, crack, crack. With a series of cracking sounds, Yi Zaiwen's golden body shattered inch by inch in front of this terrible attack. It was like sand grains, gotten annihilated inch by inch. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Yi Shiwen was resolute to fight back. Countless elixir in Tianyuan mirror burned madly, pouring into the golden body fanatically, repairing the golden body that was obliterated by that big hand little by little. Under that horrible big hand, Yi Shiwen did not consume elixir little by little at all but burned 100 million elixir as every second passed. He was really going crazy, This big hand locked the space almost instantly, giving him no chance to escape. I can only confront it until the end. At this time, there was no other way. The only hope was to fight it till the end. A long while had passed. It was either for an instant or a long time. Yi Zaiwen's mind went into a blank state. The Mingxin ancient tree behind him suddenly exuded a series of colorful divine light, engulfing him. Yi Zaiwen's mind got clearer. Yi Shiwen only felt a mysterious and unfathomable feeling, a feeling that was a little difficult to understand. This was the Tao of Transcendent Realm. The Mingxin ancient tree activated at this moment, granting Yi Shiwen the state of empowerment. But Yi Zaiwen's gap from the Transcendent Realm Master was too distant. No matter how hard Yi Shiwen tried to resist, the big hand bombarded on Yi Shiwen. Puff! Blood splattered out in the vast sky. At the same time, on the battlefield, the eyes of countless masters firmly lay on Yi Zaiwen's side. There was no other reason than the emergence of the Transcendent Realm Master. Transcendent Realm Master. They could still be regarded as a ruler even in this chaotic battlefield. Every time the Transcendent Realm Masters make a move, they would attract countless people's attention. The matter of Yi Shiwen causing a Transcendent Realm Master to personally make a move and disregard his or her identity was something unlikely. But now it really happened. Is this guy dead? He should be dead, right? Although he is already a half-step Transcendent Realm, there is definitely no way to survive against a Transcendent Realm Master. Among the disciples of Emergent School, countless people think so. In their view, this was just a bold disciple in a true martial school. They did not feel anything special about his death. Is that Yi Shiwen? I don't think I'm wrong. I have seen him once before when he was fighting Mu Shungjie. He is definitely a distinguished character. But I can't believe someone like him is dead. Transcendent Realm Master is indeed horrifying. We can only dream of reaching that realm. A true martial school disciple said sadly in empathy. No matter the tension of internal conflict within true martial school, they would still be united together in a life and death situation. Any contradictions would be deteriorating at this time. Seeing that a half-step Transcendent Realm Master was directly fanned to death under one palm of a Transcendent Realm Master, it was inevitable that they sympathized and grieved. The other true martial school disciples nodded. This is the power of the Transcendent Realm Master. Fortunately, there are relatively few Transcendent Realm Masters in this world. Otherwise, there is no room for us to intervene in this battle. But it is a pity that Yi Shiwen has fallen here. With his talents, it is possible for him to become a Transcendent Realm Master in the future. In this chaotic world, any genius is ridiculous. It is those who can survive a genius, who will remember the prestige of those who die early. I thought that Yi Shiwen would make a name under the sky. I didn't expect that he would follow suit the path of death. When everyone was talking, shock waves emitted in the sky. A burst of golden light suddenly appeared. Yi Zaiwen's figure appeared alongside the light. Right now, he was almost like an airplane with lost power. He fell down directly with his body badly mangled. At that very moment, he still avoided the deadliest attack. However, even so, his body had already collapsed. His flesh was badly mutilated. It could be said as extremely bleak. It was so badly mangled that white bones could be seen in the larger wound. His face was abnormally pale, had lost the vigor that he usually had. Everyone exclaimed. He didn't expect that at this most critical time, he had evaded the deadliest attack and escaped a catastrophe. His luck was simply heaven-defying. However, some people took in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were very sharp, especially those half-step Transcendent Realm Masters, who saw the wound on Yi Shiwen. All of them breathed in cold air. Although Yi Shiwen escaped the most terrifying attacks, the wounds on Yi Zaiwen's body portrayed how terrible the attack Yi Shiwen had sustained. There was hardly any peace vigor left on his body. Even if Yi Shiwen evaded the most terrifying attack, there was still crazy energy that was constantly destroying the cells of his body. If they were put in the same sport, they would definitely die if they were caught like this. Even though Yi Shiwen escaped out of luck, there was no way to suppress the crazy destruction in the body. Such terrible forces were not something they could resist at all. Even if they were lucky enough to escape the attack, they would be killed by the crazy destruction force. Moreover, being able to escape from the hands of the Transcendent Realm Master, could that be called luck? How many people have had such luck since ancient times? Anyone was welcome to try to challenge their luck. What kind of eyesight do the masters have? The so-called luck was non-existent. As a matter of fact, the Transcendent Realm Masters had gone through so many battles. They wouldn't make such a petty mistake. There was only one possibility to escape from the Masters of Transcendent Realm. That would an escape based on pure strength and capability. The great sages, and legendary Realm Master could not notice any hint of it. It was really a shocking movement technique that allowed him to break free from the space locked by Transcendent Realm Masters. No one would believe that it was not great. Many masters of half-step Transcendent Realm late couldn't help but admire this scene. This person's survivability was far beyond the ordinary level. He was like a cockroach. If anyone else took Yi Zaiwen's position, they would be long dead already. It was a miracle that Yi Shiwen as a half-step Transcendent Realm initial could survive until now. At this time, Yi Shiwen didn't even know what other people thought. The horrible impact almost made his Star Beast avatar fall apart at once. What a tyrannical bloodline. Any bloodline talent was illusory in front of this absolute tyrannical strength. In the face of a power realm gap, his Star Beast avatar was unmatched. At this time, his head was almost blank. There was still a little bit of Transcendent Realm information captured through the Mingxin ancient tree and mysterious space. Even if there was only a little bit of Transcendent Realm Master's Dao, it was still a huge gain. If Yi Zaiwen's main body who was still in Great Sage Realm could grasp it, it would bring huge empowerment. But this was not the key. The key lay in the terrible energy that constantly destroyed his avatar. Although it was just a mass of energy, it was like someone leading it as if the energy was self-conscious and was constantly destroying the muscle tissue in his body. Even with his Phoenix regeneration technique, there was no way to completely suppress his physical body collapsing, let alone to repair the injuries in his body constantly. The horror behind Transcendent Realm Master could be imagined. You want to flee? There was a cold snort seemingly coming from the depths of the universe. Chapter 760, Big Harvest. Even his Phoenix regeneration technique could only forcefully suppress this energy and contend with this energy little by little for control. Every time that energy destroys certain parts, his Phoenix regeneration technique would need to repair the wound. The ramifications of this destructive energy alone would be enough to kill any other person completely. But even so, Yi Shiwen had no way to rejuvenate his injury. On the flip side, this was also a rare experience for him. After all, not everyone could survive the attack of the Transcendent Realm Master. He rushed into the true martial school like an airplane crash. You think you can flee? Suddenly, a cold sneer appeared behind Yi Shiwen again. The sneer was as if coming from the depths of the universe. The tone contained some anger. As a matter of fact, he was a Transcendent Realm Master, and yet he failed to slay Yi Shiwen. Even though there were various reasons, it was a shame and humiliation for him. Thus, a calm Transcendent Realm Master would still turn angry, wanting to erase Yi Shiwen completely. Another big hand descended from the sky. It wanted to grab Yi Shiwen directly and turn Yi Shiwen into a ball of minced meat. It's over! Yi Shiwen wailed. He no longer had the strength to face the attack of the Transcendent Realm Master. The strength gap between him and the Transcendent Realm was clear at a glance. He was only able to take a blow from the Transcendent Realm Master once. Moreover, there was still some fluke in escaping this attack. But he was not in despair yet. Unbeknownst to others, this was just his Star Beast avatar. Although it would explode and incur serious damage to Yi Shiwen would not really die per se. But if Star Beast avatar really exploded, then his strength would suddenly regress from being able to attack and retreat in this battle to become an insignificant little person. His current main body was also quite powerful, being able to defeat the Great Sage Minor Mastery Realm and the Great Sage Great Mastery Realm. However, it was unmatched to the real tyrannical master. Even in the Great Sage, there were many who could beat him, not to mention half-step Transcendent Realm Master. In this chaotic battlefield, if one was not careful, he or she would really die. Yi Shiwen was so bold this time that he decided to penetrate the formation with brute force instead of sneaking in. In fact, it was due to the mightiness of Star Beast Avatar. This Star Beast Avatar was really powerful, making him almost invincible. However, in the face of the Transcendent Realm Master, it was defeated at once, let alone his main body. If it was not the last moment, he was also reluctant to give up, but there was no other way this time around. He could only watch the Star Beast Avatar get beaten to death without being able to do anything. At the same time, the Tianyuan mirror revitalized it at once. He mobilized it in order to brace himself for another critical blow. But Yi Shiwen heard another soft yell coming from Tianyu. A plain white fist pierced the void and instantly hit the big hand. Boom! It seemed like two huge stars collided suddenly. A huge mushroom cloud suddenly rose up. The terrible shockwave swept out in an instant. Many disciples of Emergent School and True Martial School were pushed away. Countless people were horrified. Another Transcendent Realm Master made a move. Everyone stared at the sky. As a matter of fact, even after fighting for several months, they rarely saw Transcendent Realm Masters exchanging blows. This was because the Transcendent Realm Master was too tyrannical. Most people could not imagine how strong they were. Once they fought all out, the entire battlefield would be destroyed. At that time, the disciples of both sides would suffer heavy losses. Both sides did not want to see it. Despite no one pointing it out clearly, the Transcendent Realm Masters on both sides still put the battlefield deep in the universe. Over there, it didn't matter how they fight. They could go all out. Due to the obstruction of this white fist, Yi Shiwen finally fell safely on a hill within the control of True Martial School. He collapsed on the ground. The previous encounter was really too dangerous. Yi Shiwen could die on the spot so easily. Yi Shiwen smiled a bit bitterly at the moment. It seemed that he was too arrogant. He originally thought that even if he could not beat the Transcendent Realm Master, there was still a certain possibility of escape. But the results said otherwise. If Yi Shiwen was not rescued in time on the second attack, he would be long dead already. At that time, Yi Shiwen really didn't know he was pushing his luck. But if he was given another chance, he would choose the same path. After all, he had a big harvest despite approaching death. In the energy which brought crazy destruction, there was Transcendent Realm Master's Tao. If Yi Shiwen could grasp it, then he had more confidence to step into Transcendent Realm in the future. In other words, this was a wealth that was hard for ordinary people to obtain. Even if others wanted it, it was impossible to resist the blow of the Transcendent Realm Master. Only Yi Shiwen could do it. As long as he could gain some insights, his main body as well as Star Beast Avatar would obtain great benefits. Their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. Some good comes out of a setback. It's really dangerous this time. I was almost killed by the Transcendent Realm Master. Yi Shiwen still had lingering fear despite it really was just a little bit. Haha, although dangerous, your gain is also great. This is not what those elixirs can make up for, the Transcendent Realm Master's Tao. Right now, you can seal it into your part of your body. By then, your cultivation will have rapid progress. Yi Mo laughed and cheered for Yi Shiwen. You both are lunatics. Do you know how dangerous that was? We almost got caught. Wolf Cub in the Tianyuan mirror complained. If they weren't saved, the Tianyuan mirror would not escape the fate of destruction. Hence, Yi Shiwen and Yi Mo were simply crazy in his view, but in conclusion, in his tone, there was a little excitement. Although this event was dangerous, it was undoubtedly very exciting. Yi Shiwen nodded, but with a bitter face. With the Phoenix regeneration technique, it could only suppress the injury. It would take a long time to attain the full suppression and utilize it for his own use. Transcendent Realm Master's power was not so easy to be assimilated. Of course, he could also request Master Titan Star Sun to do it. In that case, the Transcendent Realm's power in his body would be quickly cleaned up. However, Yi Shiwen did not want that to happen. He would rather assimilate it slowly. Later, while amidst assimilating this power, his cultivation would continue to advance by leaps and bounds. If Yi Shiwen wanted to completely heal the injury and suppress the destructive energy, he would need to help from elixir consumption. The amount required would be unpredictable. For others, this was an unimaginable loss, but it was not a big deal for Yi Shiwen. Despite him failing to block off Transcendent Realm Master's attack, it had already consumed 1 billion elixir. For him, the price of this gain was nothing compared to this harvest. With the constant burning of elixirs, Yi Shiwen finally suppressed the injuries on his body bit by bit. The original terrible injuries were recovered bit by bit. Although this was caused by the Transcendent Realm Master, it was not too difficult to rejuvenate other than the constant energy destructing his body. As long as the energy was suppressed in the body, then the rest would be much simpler. In a few moments, most of the injury was healed. Yi Shiwen could feel the gaze around him. There was curiosity, awe, disdain, and all kinds of complicated gaze lay on him. But Yi Shiwen didn't care. He knew it was inevitable. It was definitely shocking to escape from the Transcendent Realm Master. It would naturally attract the attention of countless people. This was not surprising. Suddenly, a burst of light shone from the sky. A beautiful lady in a palace dress stepped in. She wore a green dress, but her pretty face was cold. It was none other than Fair Maiden Peak's chief. Yi Shiwen quickly got up and saluted and said, "Thank you for saving me, chief." He heard the familiar voice just now. He knew that it was none other than the Fair Maiden Peak's chief who rescued him. Yi Shiwen had to be respectful. Firstly, the chief had rescued him. Second of all, she was a senior and the masters of Shaoya. Yi Shiwen had seen the exchange of blows just now clearly. The gap between him and the Transcendent Realm Master was so unimaginable that he would need to be respectful. You're destined to survive. You can recover 80% of the injury in such a short amount of time. No wonder you can escape from the other opponent. Fair Maiden Peak's chief had a cool face. It was like this ever since Yi Ziwen's first encounter with her. It did not change after so many years, which worried Yi Shiwen a little that Shaoya would be taught into someone like this. Chapter 761, 10 years later, improvement in strength posted on August 28, 2020 BYJ. This Fair Maiden Peak's chief was so cold like an iceberg ever since Yi Ziwen's first encounter with her. There was no sign of the cold attitude melting. Yi Shiwen also worried that Shaoya would be taught into someone like this. Although Shaoya was somehow quite introverted and rarely spoke, she was still a normal child. If she was taught into an iceberg, then there might be a big problem. Yi Shiwen smiled a little embarrassedly. Although the other party was not quite polite, Yi Shiwen could hear that she was not malicious. "You don't have to thank me. Your brother Huang Wuji just saw you and asked me to help. You are really bold. You dare to break into the emergent school. I dare not do it." Fair Maiden Peak's chief said lightly, but a hint of surprise could be caught in her eyes. She was not just surprised with Yi Ziwen's means to escape, and also for his courage. Although the Transcendent Realm Master had the strength to maneuver freely in the army, no one dared to rush into the army and cause such a rampage. It was because once he or she rushed in, the person would have to face a group of Transcendent Realm Masters coming in from all directions. In that case, even a tyrannical master would be run down. Yi Shiwen was able to kill all the way, largely because the other party didn't care about a great sage. It was only after Yi Shiwen killed a half-step Transcendent Realm that it really attracted the attention of the upper levels. Yi Shiwen suddenly realized that he still had his senior brother backing him up. No wonder he was saved in time. However, you have quite some means. Don't be reckless in the future. This warfare has just begun. In the future, the reconstruction of the school will need people like you. Time flies really fast. Even your generation is growing up. Fair Maiden Peak's chief sighed and commented. Although true martial school had a 100-year term, it was not a big gap for those of them who had lived for thousands of years. In their hearts, they only regarded people as either their generation or junior. Yes. Yi Shiwen cupped his hand. Although you encountered great danger this time, it is also a good opportunity. In this chaotic world, someone will rise up. Whether you are a minor figure or a distinguished one, it depends on your own. Fair Maiden Peak's chief finished her words. She was about to turn around and leave but was stopped by Yi Shiwen. "Chief, how is Xiaoya doing now?" Yi Shiwen asked, but it was a little embarrassing. In the past few years, he was so busy that he left Xiaoya aside. On the contrary, he actually put it in his heart. If it was not because Yi Shiwen was too busy, he would go to Fair Maiden Peak already. Now that Fair Maiden Peak's chief was in front of him, he would definitely ask about it. It seems like you do care. Xiaoya misses you every day." Fair Maiden Peak's chief threw him a rare smile, and then returned to the cold attitude. "She is great. She just attained the Sage Realm some time ago. If it all goes well, she can step into the Great Sage Realm within 30 years' time. She is a good talent." Speaking of Xiaoya, Fair Maiden Peak's chief's attitude was not so cold. She had an occasional smile which was rare. For a talent like Xiaoya, everyone would adore her. Hearing this, Yi Shiwen was slightly speechless. Xiaoya had already stepped into Sage Realm. How much effort did Yi Shiwen spend in order to step into Sage Realm? Xiaoya was the resemblance of genius. Any genius was unmatched to the speed of Xiaoya's progression. Now that Xiaoya is well, then I can rest assured. Thank you, Chief, for taking care of Xiaoya. Yi Shiwen bowed in sincerity. Xiaoya is my apprentice. I will take care of her even without your comments. Fair Maiden Peak's chief replied. She turned around and stepped into the void. She disappeared in the blink of an eye. After Fair Maiden Peak's chief left, Yi Ziwen's injuries were almost recovered. As for the destructive energy, he could not repress it and digest it slowly. It would take some time before he could eliminate it. After all, it was helpful for Yi Ziwen's cultivation since the energy contained the Transcendent Realm's Tao. As long as Yi Shiwen utilized it well, the breakthrough to Transcendent Realm in the future would be much simpler. At this time, he directly swapped out his main body and joined the fight. He didn't even have the time to return to the Tibetan Star Summit. Last time, when Star Beast Avatar came back, he already went for a visit. Originally, there were 2 or 3 people in Tibetan Star Summit. Right now, that place was completely empty since everyone was fighting outside. He was once again involved in the battle. He could go all out to fight this time because he didn't have to worry about being suddenly killed by the Transcendent Realm Master from the void. He was now in the border separating true martial school and emergent school. If there was anything wrong, he could retreat into the true martial school. The geographical advantage allowed him to attack and retreat as he wished. Looking around, there were a lot of masters slayed at every moment. Legendary, Sage Realm, and even Great Sage. Their death count increased from time to time. In this warfare, everything seemed extremely cruel. The blood essences of Sage Realm Masters and Great Sage Realm Masters were extremely precious. These blood essences might incur people to fight over it usually, but they were treated like garbage in this situation. Their corpse scattered everywhere on the ground with no one batting an eye at them. Blood painted the whole battlefield. Countless masters had their downfall in this warfare. At the same time, many masters were still fighting, improving from time to time. In a large-scale warfare, many people learnt many experiences and became veterans in battle. It was difficult for many people to make sense why there were many horrifying masters in the distant era when true martial school was just established. If any one of them was in the present time, their emergence was enough to shock everyone. Right now, they all realized such fame was paved with slaughter. In those distant eras, the ancestors of true martial school had to face the masters of countless native clan and the demonic beasts of the wilderness era. The situation was more tragic than the current time by 100-fold. People who had survived in such an environment were naturally stronger than the disciples of true martial school who dwelled in peace for a long time. This was a tragic war. The masters of Transcendent Realm on both sides were restrained. They were all waiting. In the battlefield, both sides were on equal ground. Once one side collapses, the Transcendent Realm Master would make a move. Just like the emergence of Yi Shiwen which broke the balance just now. When no one could stop him and even the half-step Transcendent Realm Master was slayed in his hands, The Transcendent Realm Master had to do something. Both sides were probing slowly as if the two sides were vicious beasts, intimidating each other. They would bite each other from time to time, but it was not yet the time to go for an all-out attack. The war between these two behemoths would take a very long time. It would be impossible for a victor to emerge in a short time. Both sides had exerted their strength and were quietly preparing to give each other a fatal blow. Time also passed by in such constant fighting. In the blink of an eye, 10 years of time fleeted. The two behemoths had been fighting for more than 10 years. The territory retained by True Martial School was only 2/3 of 10 years ago. Although 10 years were a long time, it was nothing for the warriors that had a lifespan close to hundreds of years and even thousands of years. Even the warfare among mortals could last for decades. In this decade of fighting, both sides had suffered heavy losses. Many masters were slayed, but neither side stopped, or even showed their fatigue. At this time, if they show fatigue, they might be attacked to their death. Boom! Yi Shiwen killed a great sage Great Perfection Realm Master with a punch, and defeated a whole Tao Soldier's legion. He was like a peerless fiend. Wherever he passed, the Emergent School's army would collapse. His momentum shot like a rainbow. His vital energy and blood boiled like a sea wave. Yi Shiwen was like a bulldozer as he eliminated his enemy. 10 years. For a whole decade he was in constant battle. There was no stagnation in his cultivation at all. Even with his strength, he often faced the situation of walking between life and death. Although he was basically active at the border between True Martial School's forces and Emergent School's forces, this battlefield was too chaotic. He could not take control of everything. There were surprise raids sometimes which incur a great injury to True Martial School. Sometimes, half-step Transcendent Realm Masters would participate in the raid too. At that time, he could only summon Star Beast Avatar to help. However, countless killings and injuries were not unrewarded. The real reward was to let his cultivation escalate from the Great Sage Intermediate Realm to Great Sage Peak Realm. He was only one step away to attain Great Sage Minor Mastery. He could even defeat opponents in the Great Sage Great Perfection Realm. Compared with 10 years ago, he had fundamentally improved. If he were to fight Mu Shengjie again, he didn't even need to summon Star Beast Avatar. Regardless of Mu Shengjie's numerous means, Mi Shengjie would be defeated in his hands. Moreover, Yi Ziwen's main body 10 years ago was only able to beat the Great Sage Minor Mastery. This showed how great the progress was in his strength for the past 10 years. Not only that, his Star Beast Avatar progressed even faster. It had already entered the half-step Transcendent Realm late. With the blood essence and power of the adult Star Beast that sealed in the body and the destructive energy left by the Transcendent Realm Master in his body, he progressed like a rocket. Also, the Star Beast Avatar did not need to experience countless killings like his main body. By just absorbing all this energy, the Star Beast Avatar would naturally enter the half-step Transcendent Realm late. He would be truly ranked among the elite under Transcendent Realm. However, after entering the half-step Transcendent Realm late, there had been no such rapid progress. As for Transcendent Realm, it seemed too distant. Chapter 762, Step into Great Sage Great Mastery, posted on August 31, 2020 BYJI. This was different from the previous breakthrough from half-step Transcendent Initial Realm to Intermediate then late. For the breakthrough process, Yi Ziwen's Star Beast Avatar largely depended on the absorption of blood essence and energy. But this would not work for the Avatar to attain Transcendent Realm. It had to rely on various inspirations and cultivation to keep up. With that, Star Beast Avatar was constantly immersed in the brand of blood, comprehending some of Star Beast's innate magical power and realm perception. That was in preparation for the ultimate breakthrough to become a Transcendent Realm Master. This required accumulation over time and opportunity. Yi Shiwen didn't know how long it would take. He could only be prepared as much as possible. If the opportunity comes, the breakthrough would take place immediately. There was the element of Tianyuan Mirror too. In this decade, Tianyuan Mirror had absorbed many blood essences. It had already reached a critical point to evolve. As long as it could absorb the blood essence of a transcendent realm master, the evolution would immediately occur. Over the past 10 years, not only Yi Shiwen had made progress, but also survived many battles. In this world, warriors who survived many battles would have improvements in their foundation. On average, they could attain one level of breakthrough. Just like Huang Wuji and Mu Xingjie, both of them had stepped into half-step transcendent late realm. This would be impossible usually. If they were able to step into half-step transcendent realm under normal circumstances, they were already considered to be cultivating at rocket speed. With the situation now, they had stepped into half-step transcendent late realm. Relying on thousands of years of practice and accumulated knowledge, they were no slower than Yi Shiwen. If Yi Shiwen did not have many fruitful adventures, he would be unmatched to be brought up as a comparison. In addition to these two people, the progress of other people was also very obvious. The second senior sister, Lu Yanlan, had finally entered the Great Sage Great Perfection, and Bai Jiansong had also entered the Great Sage Minor Mastery. Their progress was rapid. Yang Wenjun and Deng Shuixin had also stepped into the Sage Minor Mastery realm one after another. It could be said that the juniors and seniors of the Tibetan Star Summit experienced a huge transformation because of this warfare. Most of the distinguished Yi Ziwen's peers had crossed the Great Sage realm one after another and achieved breakthroughs in their foundation. In 10 years' time, True Martial School had suddenly emerged with a large number of masters, and the potential of many talents was groomed under pressure. Of course, this positive picture disregarded masters that were killed in battles. Although there were a large number of masters emerging, the figures of masters died were 10-folds or even 100-fold. The loss was great. All in all, the emergence of those talents were paved in the path filled with countless corpses. The only path to becoming strong was to kill many enemies. Over the past 10 years, this rule was further proven in warfare. For ordinary martial art warriors, this decade was just as usual and passed without anything eventful. However, for Yi Shiwen, this decade was basically spent in the battle. On one side was the behemoth that once ruled the true martial domain. On the other side was the invincible sect of the current emergence world ruler. The collision between the two sects could be described as shocking. The cards between the two parties were exhausted. Various cards and tricks that were on hiatus were utilized. Even if it was Yi Shiwen, and even many disciples of True Martial School had higher seniority than Yi Shiwen, didn't know that True Martial School still hid so many tricks and trump cards. Ancient arrays and divine tools had all come to life without warning, causing great damage to Emergent School. This was also the reason why Emergent School, that was more enormous than True Martial School, had only advanced by 1/3 in terms of territory. It was conceivable that the further the Emergent School advanced, the fiercer the resistance of True Martial School would be, and the more serious the Emergent School's losses would be. Many other forces, especially those that had been eyeing on True Martial School for a while, had taken notice of it. Only then did they finally understand that True Martial School, the South Region ruler for so many years, had such a profound background. True Martial School was holding themselves off for the small skirmish in the past. If it was not the Emergent School which invaded quite deep into True Martial domain, the True Martial School would not retaliate in full force. All of them were simply shocked in their hearts. Both Emergent School and True Martial School had unimaginable trump cards. If they were put into warfare like this, they would be completely destroyed. However, both sides still sustained till this stage. True Martial School was also worthy of the name as the omni-existence that ruled the True Martial domain. Although the Star Beast invasion had incurred a heavy loss where the vast majority of the masters from the 5 regions and 4 wilderness sites were lost, the South region, which was established as the starting place and a fundamental place of True Martial School, still had numerous backups. The True Martial School's predecessors had laid many trump cards behind. Once all of them broke out, no one could stay calm to it. The warfare had entered a state of stalemate. Both sides seemed to be waiting for an opportunity to reverse the situation. However, these were things that the high level needs to consider. Yi Shiwen himself did not need to consider these. The only thing he would need to consider now was how to truly break through to the Great Sage Great Mastery realm. With that, his combat power could escalate to half-step transcendent initial realm level in one fell swoop. At that time, he had both the option of offense and defense without relying on Star Beast Avatar. Yi Zaiwen's position in true martial school was considered elite class already. In true martial school, Transcendent Realm Masters and half-step Transcendent Realm Masters were supreme elder in each legatee, holding a high authority at their own side. For Yi Shiwen, he had attained the Great Sage Minor Mastery peak. He was only one step away, but he was not in a hurry. Now that the battle was so intense, there were numerous opportunities for him. Yi Shiwen had a much more enormous wealth now. After killing the Emergent School's masters, he could plunder the wealth of them and even exchange them for points. These points would allow him to get more wealth. In the end, he had 2 folds of harvest. Those masters who survived also made a fortune. This was also the reason why those who were still alive had a great leap in their cultivation progress. It was all due to the supply of many resources and wealth that was hard to come by usually. A large number of elixirs started to burn wildly as Yi Zaiwen's mysterious space absorbed them. The glory of mysterious space became more and more dazzling. More and more information was deduced and instilled into Yi Zaiwen's mind. Now that the accumulation of Yi Shiwen was long enough, he could catch up with the realm perception and step into the Great Sage Great Mastery realm in one fell swoop. He reached this point 3 years ago, and he could break through at any time. However, he had been waiting. If it was just an ordinary breakthrough, his combat power would only escalate by 1 level. He could only become invincible among Great Sage Great Perfection Peak and could not contend with half-step Transcendent Realm opponents. He did not stop burning the elixirs, absorbing them, and deduce various realms' perception, so that he could fight with half-step Transcendent Initial Realm Master once he obtained breakthrough. Although it was only half-step Transcendent Initial Realm, the fact was the words Transcendent Realm were gotten closer. It was already extraordinary and hard to achieve under normal circumstances. His actual realm perception must be able to really match up with the half-step Transcendent Realm, which was something that other people couldn't do at all. They only had realm perception of the realm they were in. They did not have a mysterious space like Yi Shiwen. As long as there were enough elixir, the realm perception could be continuously derived. In the meantime, Yi Shiwen was not short of those elixirs. Despite the resources required for deducing the realm of half-step Transcendent Realm were also massive, Yi Shiwen could still supply it. With him killing Emergent School Master non-stop and continuing the plunder, he was willing to invest it all. This was why Yi Zaiwen's realm of perception was always faster than his cultivation speed. Yi Shiwen deduced realm perception at every moment. Hence, even if Yi Shiwen progressed in cultivation lightning fast, the foundation of the realm was well consolidated. All in all, that was the real benefit. It was also the fundamental reason why Yi Shiwen could fight someone beyond his cultivation realm. Although Yi Shiwen eliminated a wave of Tao soldiers, the Emergent School's Tao Soldiers Legion was still as endless as 10 years ago. With another wave killed, another wave came. It was endless. The shadow of the Mingxin ancient tree appeared behind Yi Shiwen. Colorful divine light bloomed in which the light engulfed him. Yi Shiwen suddenly felt that his spiritual senses were empty, and all the misunderstandings disappeared without a trace. Only the information from the mysterious space branded into the depth of his spirit bit by bit. The efficiency suddenly escalated by 10-folds. This was the perk of the Mingxin ancient tree. Those under the Mingxin ancient tree's blessings would improve overnight. Compared with 10 years ago, the Mingxin ancient tree had also grown a bit higher. During this decade, the spiritual energy generated on Dragon Vein had basically supplied to the Mingxin ancient tree. Yi Shiwen himself only used elixir. The spiritual energy of elixirs was really incomparable with the spiritual energy released in Dragon Vein. Yi Shiwen was once again among the masters of Emergent School. The battle had taken place for a long time. The vital energy and blood in his body were also surging. Yi Shiwen could feel that the barrier of the realm was just in front of him. It was the barrier which he had a glimpse of 3 years ago, but he had not chosen a breakthrough. The breakthrough was approaching now. The closer it was, the calmer Yi Shiwen became, the more empty his heart was. Boom! All the aura within his body seemed to break free of all restraints and rushed out. At last, Yi Shiwen stepped into the Great Sage Great Mastery realm. A spear pierced through the vast sky from the void coming straight to Yi Shiwen. It was extremely brilliant. Chapter 763. It's time to fight back. Yi Shiwen did not feel any special for stepping into the Great Sage Great Mastery. For him, this was a matter of course. Stepping into the Great Sage Great Mastery was originally something that could have been done 3 years ago, but he simply delayed for 3 years in order to have enough accumulation. If he broke through 3 years ago, his current combat power would not be equal to that of half-step Transcendent Realm. But the breakthrough had awaited 3 years. Furthermore, it took place in such an intense battlefield. After 3 years of accumulation, his combat power had an explosive development that went beyond realm limitation. But before he could be happy, a spear came assaulting through the vast sky from the void. The spear was extremely brilliant and went straight to Yi Shiwen. The timing was excellent. At the moment of Yi Shiwen's breakthrough, the assassination came. During the instance of breakthrough, Yi Shiwen should be the most tired and the least prepared. One could imagine how accurate this man's grasp on the battle was. The opponent should be a veteran. But he made a miscalculation on Yi Shiwen. In such a dangerous battlefield, Yi Shiwen would not let his guard down even in breakthrough. This was his habit. He broke through more than once in battle. It was a lesson learned from the cruel reality. What's more, he was already accustomed to multitasking. It was simply impossible to ambush him. At that very moment, Yi Shiwen's skin was instantly covered with golden divinity. These divinities were like waves, blooming in the sunshine with boundless light. Yi Shiwen spread his hands apart, squeezed his 5 fingers into a fist, and launched a punch on the long spear. Asterisk dang. Asterisk under the metal clanking sound, Yi Shiwen's fist struck on the long spear tip. The spear was seemingly made out of gold, or even something that had higher tensile strength than gold. This spear had obviously reached the Great Sage Tool level. White marks were left on Yi Shiwen's fist, and that was all it could achieve. This happened so swiftly. After the attack, the opponent instantly fled. It lived up to the quality of an assassin. Yi Shiwen was not surprised at the presence of assassins in Emergent School because Emergent School was so grand. It was impossible for everyone to practice the same martial arts. Just like true martial school, there were all kinds of legates from various lineages. The types of lineages were complex. The more sophisticated these lineages were, the more powerful their forces would be. Emergent School dominated the entire emergence world. It was no surprise that there was such an assassin legate. Running away? Yi Shiwen yelled, shocking everyone in the proximity. After stepping into the Great Sage Great Mastery realm, his strength had changed dramatically. This confidence exploded to the sky at this moment. Yi Shiwen immediately stepped out, crossing the void directly. He delivered a shockwave that distinguished the assassin. It was an assassin in black robes. It was difficult to see the figure clearly. Half of the body had integrated into the space. Yi Shiwen, living up to the name of a monstrous genius in true martial school for many years. I wanted to take advantage of your breakthrough to kill you. Who knows you are so sly? Even when it's breakthrough, you still don't relax your vigilance. The assassin looked at Yi Shiwen deeply and said, "Ha, do you know how much is your bounty? You are the fuse who triggered the war after all. In just a decade, you have beheaded many emergent school masters. As long as I kill you, I will be able to obtain massive resources, which is enough for me to attain the transcendent realm. How unfortunate. I still fail in the end." Yi Shiwen caught the assassin, but he was not nervous at all, as if he could retreat at any time. Although his face-to-face combat strength was still somewhat weak even in the face of Yi Shiwen who had just broken through, he was confident to flee. "Kill me." Yi Shiwen grinned. During this time period, he did kill a lot of masters. At the time he escaped from the hands of the Transcendent Realm Master, it really shocked the high-ups of both forces. If he died in the hands of the Transcendent Realm Master at that time, it would not be a surprise. However, he escaped from the hands of the Transcendent Realm Master, which shocked the higher-ups of Emergent School. There were so many disciples under their sect. However, no one could achieve this feat despite Fair Maiden Peak's chief stopping the second attack. No one under their sect could survive even one attack from Transcendent Realm Master. Transcendent Realm and Great Sage Realm were fundamentally different. Their lifespan was on a whole different level too. It was a leap to develop from the Legendary Realm to the Sage Realm. It was a great vault to escalate from Great Sage Realm to Transcendent Realm. It was a miracle in itself to be able to escape from the Transcendent Realm Master. Such a person would be a huge threat in the future. Therefore, the bounty on Yi Zaiwen's head in Emergent School was getting higher and higher. You should think about whether you can save your life before you talk. Yi Shiwen sneered. He charged his fist. It was as if a star swooshed down, puncturing the sky and shaking the world. The assassin sneered. His body suddenly retreated and disappeared into the sky like a line. His speed was extremely fast. His movement technique was definitely first grade. No wonder he had the confidence to escape from Yi Shiwen, but he still had a miscalculation on Yi Shiwen. What was the most prominent strength of Yi Shiwen? That would definitely be speed, and even much superior than his physical body. Trying to flee again? Yi Zaiwen's mouth gleamed with a disdainful smile. There was a golden glint in his eyes. A pair of golden wings spread behind him. He morphed into a cluster of golden light and flickered forward. In just a moment, he had crashed into Emergent School's army formation and immediately caught up with the assassin. The assassin who had stepped into the half-step Transcendent Realm saw Yi Shiwen catching up in a flash. A hint of terror appeared in his gaze. He dared to talk in front of Yi Shiwen, thinking that his movement technique gave him invincibility. He was not ignorant of Yi Zaiwen's brilliant record. Even the half-step Transcendent Realm Master had fallen into his hands, but he thought that Yi Shiwen wouldn't be able to keep up with him. Hence, the superior strength was nothing to be concerned about. In the same power realm, his movement technique was top-notch. He never expected to be caught up. Although Yi Shiwen appeared like a great sage, he didn't think much about it other than Yi Shiwen had a profound skill which stopped him from identifying further. There were many warriors who pretended to be weak to strike the prey. They tend to be boastful as well. Having another person like that was within expectation. He never believed that a great sage realm master could behead a half-step Transcendent Realm Master. This was even more incredible than half-step Transcendent Realm escaped from Transcendent Realm. But now Yi Zaiwen's performance had completely subverted his beliefs. Yi Shiwen had debunked what he didn't believe in the past with reality. Poison Dragon Drill. How could he be reconciled? He directly returned with a spear stab. It was like a poison dragon as the spear's head spun madly, as if he could drill a big hole in the universe. Breaking through the world, it drilled towards Yi Shiwen. Rippling Mountain Seal. Yi Shiwen instantly incarnated a seal and fell down like a huge mountain. Boom! The Rippling Mountain Seal directly crushed the Poison Dragon Drill. The long spear instantly flew out without losing any momentum and launched directly on the black-robed assassin. Boom! The black-robed assassin was directly hit on the spot. He screamed in agony and was directly killed by Yi Shiwen. Although he was also a half-step Transcendent Realm, he was only great in speed and assassination. However, in direct confrontation, he might be able to kill Great Sage. But for Yi Shiwen, who was enough to match the combat power of half-step Transcendent Realm Initial, it seemed too weak. When a master has a momentary flaw, it is enough to determine life and death. Not to mention that no matter whether it was physical cultivation, speed, or combat power, Yi Shiwen was far better than the other. In just one move, Yi Shiwen defeated him on the spot, plundering his wealth too. The Tianyuan mirror also absorbed all of the blood essences too. He was not Yi Zaiwen's opponent at all. Yi Shiwen fanned his demon wings directly and returned to the true martial school. Sure enough, just after leaving, another big hand of Transcendent Realm fell down on Yi Zaiwen's position just now. Over the years, such scenes had not only appeared once or twice. Yi Shiwen had been used to it for a long time. He dared not stay in the battlefield for a long time because he knew how much the Emergent School people wanted to get rid of him. Even if he stayed in the battlefield for a short period of time, he would face a surprise attack from the Transcendent Realm Master. In this regard, Yi Shiwen was also helpless. What is the problem with the Transcendent Realm Master? Who do they need to hunt a mere great sage? Every time I appear longer, a Transcendent Realm Master will definitely launch an attack. It was as though Yi Shiwen had really pissed them off. Every time he appeared, he would attract the Transcendent Realm Master. It was as though Transcendent Realm Masters were not a big deal as they appeared so casually. Brother Yi. The call interrupted Yi Zaiwen's thoughts. Yi Shiwen glanced forward. It was Qi Fifan. In 10 years, Qi Fifan also entered the Great Sage. At the time, the Supreme School Master accepted him as an apprentice. Many people still felt puzzled, but as he entered the Great Sage afterwards, there was lesser gossip. He had become a ruler at one side, leading a large army. He also made a name for himself after many battles. Yi Shiwen did not expect to encounter him here. Brother Qi. Yi Shiwen was a little baffled. At this time, Qi Fifan was not safeguarding the army. Why is he here? Brother Yi, I finally found you. Let's go and follow me now, said Qi Fifan. Yi Shiwen frowned and asked, Brother Yi, what is the matter? Why are you so eager for me to go? Serious business. Qi Fifan said, my master is summoning half-step Transcendent Realm warriors for a meeting. It's time to fight back. Chapter 764. Emergent School took the first move. Strike them back? Yi Shiwen almost thought he had heard it wrong. We're actually going to strike them back. In fact, True Martial School had utilized many shocking trump cards and tricks under the pressure of Emergent School in the past 10 years. Despite so, it was still an indisputable fact that the territory had shrunk by 1/3. In other words, even though many tricks and cards were utilized, there was still a huge gap in strength with Emergent School. In the eyes of many, True Martial School was doing somewhat of stubborn resistance, seeming to seize as much territory in its hands and force the Emergent School to retreat due to the unbearable cost. This was also the most likely and safest way which everyone could think of. After all, although True Martial School once led True Martial Domain, they now had no command of the entire realm. True Martial School's strength was far from being comparable with Emergent School, which was now in its heyday. Of course, it had not reached the point where Emergent School could completely crush True Martial School. In fact, even Yi Shiwen held this opinion too. After 10 years, True Martial School had maneuvered every powerful trick up its sleeves. As the True Martial School's tricks revealed one by one, even Yi Shiwen felt that this was more or less the limit. Those on the front line would slowly exhaust Emergent School, forcing them to withdraw from True Martial Domain before they suffer huge losses. Yi Shiwen didn't expect that True Martial School was planning to fight back. Although he didn't know True Martial School's plan, he could feel that the current circumstance would change. Since True Martial School intended to fight back, then it must be a thunderous blow. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen didn't hesitate and flew to the depths of True Martial School. Yi Shiwen, who now had the combat power of half-step Transcendent Realm, could already be regarded as the top of the school. Soon, Yi Shiwen rushed to the meeting hall where the Supreme Schoolmaster was at. At this time, a lot of half-step Transcendent Realm Masters had gathered. Most of them were the old guys indulged in close cultivation for many years. Basically, those considered the same generation with the Supreme Schoolmaster could be ranked as the higher-ups of the school, provided that the cultivation realm was at least half-step Transcendent Realm. On the contrary, it was very rare to see someone like Yi Shiwen. Seeing Yi Shiwen coming over, many older generation masters in half-step Transcendent Realm had turned their gaze over. Yi Shiwen had become famous in the past 10 years. Yi Zaiwen's age was so young. Even their apprentices might be much older than Yi Shiwen. However, it was this young man who made a name for himself in just a decade, achieving a reputation that enabled him to have the same seniority with the older generation. Although Yi Shiwen appeared to be just a great sage, it was still a fact that the half-step Transcendent Realm Master died in his hands. No one would stir up trouble with Yi Shiwen. That would be simply too dumb. It was just that although Yi Zaiwen's reputation had risen and shaken the True Martial School in 10 years, These half-step transcendent realm masters were all rulers at their own territory. Everyone here was rare to be caught sight normally. Many of them had only heard of Yi Ziwen's name, but none had seen him in person. Hence, all the gaze was directed at Yi Shiwen at the current moment. In the eyes of everyone, Yi Shiwen was at ease. At this time, he found that there were a bunch of more than 30 masters of half-step transcendent realm in the corner. The two leading experts in half-step transcendent realm are Huang Wuji and Mu Shengjie. Compared with other older half-step transcendent realm masters, Yi Shiwen seemed a little out of place. Seeing Yi Shiwen coming, Huang Wuji strode forward, followed by masters queued behind him. Brother Yi, you have been doing well recently. I just heard that you kill another half-step transcendent realm master? Huang Wuji said with a laugh. 10 years had brought great changes to Huang Wuji. Compared with 10 years ago, he had undergone earth-shaking changes. The accumulation of the past 1,000 years had completely exploded in this decade. It was indisputable that only fierce battle would hone a person. Huang Wuji looked at Yi Shiwen and was a little relieved. The little junior finally grew up and became at the same level as him. The Tibetan Star Summit had more successors. For him, this might be the most important thing. Of course, many people including himself also found it simply incredible that Yi Shiwen had already butchered a lot of half-step transcendent realm masters. Generally speaking, the half-step transcendent realm masters were the pinnacles when the transcendent realm masters did not appear. They usually have their own trump card. Hence, they were tough opponents to hunt down. Hence, every half-step transcendent realm master dead could shock the world for a while. If the transcendent realm masters were easy to kill like the Sage Realm and the Great Sage Realm, then the half-step transcendent realm master in this hall would be long dead already. However, this rule did not apply to Yi Shiwen. Once he made a move, it would be a swift and neat kill without any sloppiness in it. The death happened instantly. They might have higher seniority than Yi Shiwen, but when it came to killing half-step transcendent realm masters, they were far inferior to Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen just killed another one. They were destined to be unmatched to Yi Shiwen. Compared with Yi Shiwen, many of them had no means of delivering a fatal blow. Most importantly, they didn't have the speed of Yi Shiwen. As long as they were not as strong as Yi Shiwen, they would be killed. That allowed Yi Shiwen an advantage to safely choose between both offense and defense. No one else had that. If the other party was determined to pursue Yi Shiwen to the end, they might not be able to catch up. Those with faster speed would generally be weaker in other aspects, for example being weaker in a direct confrontation. They could completely forget about killing the opponent. Yi Shiwen was unique in being strong all-roundly. Despite Huang Wuji and Mu Shengjie having killed many more, they could not be compared with Yi Shiwen. I'm just lucky, Yi Shiwen said with a smile. He was promoted to the Great Sage Great Mastery realm, and he didn't really plan to find fault on others. It all happened coincidentally. On the other side, the young masters behind Mu Shengjie were a bit embarrassed. His conflict with Yi Shiwen now was over after the battle between Yi Shiwen and Mu Shengjie in addition to the current enemy. But it was a bit awkward to meet again. But without giving him much chance to stay in his own thoughts, soon another group of people came in with the Supreme School Master taking the lead. Those behind him turned out to be the heads of the 10 legates. These 10 legate leaders would rule a territory on their own. They were always ready to resist the attack of any transcendent realm master alongside their disciples. It was impossible for them to gather together, but it did indeed happen. It was really like Chi Fifan said, True Martial School was going to make a big move and summon everyone back. Of course, True Martial School not only had these transcendent realm masters, but all other masters couldn't be summoned back. Otherwise, the defense line would collapse. The Supreme School Master frowned slightly. He glanced at everyone with a serious gaze before he spoke up. I summoned everyone today not for anything else, but for us to fight back. When talking about fighting back, the Supreme School Master clenched his fists. Everyone's heart seemed to be tense with this grip. For 10 years, True Martial School was still defending stubbornly despite countless deaths and injuries. They were also forced to be in a deadlock, guarding True Martial School. Although True Martial School had declined for many years, it was still the True Martial Domain's ruler. When did they suffer so hard previously? They were completely suppressed by the opponent, stirring up everyone's anger. However, true martial school's strength was indeed inferior to emergent school. They had no way to go about it. Now it was finally time to fight back. Everyone got themselves excited. Over the years, they have been rampaging in the true martial domain. It's time to come to an end. The Supreme Schoolmaster said lightly, "We are going to send them all to heaven in one fell swoop. The reason why I summoned you was to let you go all out and never let them escape. After they are fatally injured, you are responsible for killing anyone who might escape. None of them can be spared. It will be a mass slaughter." In the tone of the Supreme Schoolmaster, there were great killing intentions. He had been used to being the Supreme Schoolmaster for so many years, keeping a poised manner. However, he was a ruthless schoolmaster. His words were resolute. When the emergent school demanded Yi Shiwen, he gave a similarly strong response. Yi Shiwen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that emergent school was also suffering heavy losses outside. However, it was still far away from a serious injury. It was a scary last move, confident enough to kill them all. Has true martial school been preparing for this last move for the past 10 years? At this time, countless spiritual energies in the sky seemed to be pumped away in an instant and gathered towards a place outside true martial school. The chi was surging wildly. Even the true martial school arrays had their spiritual energy taken away. Everyone's face suddenly changed. They launched their spiritual senses to peek on the outside. With everyone's strength above half-step transcendent realm, it was not difficult for their spiritual sense to cover the true martial school. What they saw was a huge long saber, like a mountain appearing in the sky unbeknownst to them. It was bursting with unimaginable light. The terrible saber aura madly formed a huge barrier in the sky. Countless spiritual energy was absorbed by this long saber in an instant. It got bigger and bigger. Everyone's heart was stunned. They were just plotting to fight back, but emergent school actually took the first move. This saber should be the garrisoned martial instruments of emergent school, Emergent's immortal exterminating saber. The Supreme Schoolmaster said calmly. Chapter 765. Sacrifice Emergent's immortal exterminating saber. Everyone on the spot was shocked. This weapon was well known as a lethal weapon. In fact, true martial school knew a lot about emergent school. In the past, when true martial school was still in its heyday, its forces also expanded beyond the starry sky. True martial school had interacted with various major forces and launched many wars. They would know a lot about the major forces. In particular, during the time when emergent school was about to invade true martial school, they had also consulted various materials and classics in regards to emergent school. Although it was ancient books and materials recorded many years ago, it was much better than staying blind. Hence, true martial school was still aware of this legendary garrisoned martial instrument of emergent school. Emergent's immortal exterminating saber was said to be obtained by the founder of emergent school from a secret ruin. According to rumors, emergent school's ancestors once relied on the emergent's immortal exterminating saber to behead the holy realm dwellers. No one knew whether this rumor was true or false, but the legend of emergent's immortal exterminating saber was passed down. Even in emergent school's turmoil many times, this weapon was dispatched to settle the unrest. For emergent school, it carried a special meaning. This weapon was enshrined in the deepest part of emergent school. No one expected that emergent school would dispatch this lethal weapon during the attack on true martial school. Exterminate immortals. These words alone were enough to make countless people frightened. It was the legendary immortals. How terrifying this saber was to slaughter immortals. The emergent's immortal exterminating saber was naturally powerful, but it was obviously not easy to be expedited. Otherwise, emergent school would probably have used it long ago. With such a weapon, true martial school had probably been breached long ago. Everyone had panic painted over their face, whether they liked it or not. It seems like we still have to take action, Senior Brother Supreme Schoolmaster. It just so happens to be a good chance to eliminate the emergent school entirely. At this time, Dang Yangfeng, who was behind the Supreme Schoolmaster, stood up and said. His tone seemed desolated. I will shoulder it by myself. The Supreme Schoolmaster said lightly with no doubt in his tone. We can't do that. You still have to take on the work of rebuilding the school afterward. I'm not good at such a task. This is a good chance to extricate myself. Let me go. Dang Yangfeng said. It's all right for the school to lose me, but not senior brother. Everyone was at a loss, but they could hear that this was obviously not a good thing. Senior brother, didn't we agree? Since the true martial school was founded, many ancestors have thrown their sweats and blood for the schools. Since ancient times, the number of sacrifices did not drop, let alone what happens today. Let those fuckers who have a covetous intention on us to recognize the truth. If I can ensure the safety of the school for thousands of years, I'm willing to head to the underworld. I can die with peace of mind. Chief Dang Yangfeng said. The vital energy and blood all over his body suddenly escalated to a whole new level. His face covered with beard stubble was even more determined and shocking. The nephew of our master once said that true martial school has no coward's fear of dying. I'm already old with not many days left. My lifespan is prolonged with the medicines in school. I struggle on whilst at death's door. Right now, I can finally do something for true martial school. Supreme Schoolmaster, don't stop me on this. I think we are all well aware of the power of Emergent's immortal exterminating saber. There is no way to stop this lethal weapon except for the 7-star chi-breaking array. At this time, 6 more gray-haired, skinny old men walked out from the back of the hall. Master's uncle. Master. Grandmaster. As soon as these 6 gray-haired old men came out, many of the half-step transcendent realm masters who were present suddenly shouted out. These veteran masters had lived for thousands of years. When they saw these gray-haired masters, they couldn't help crying out in exclamation and cried bitterly. These masters turned out to be those who still survived for ages in the true martial school. They were the elderly predecessor, having higher seniority than the Supreme Schoolmaster who now ruled the true martial school. 2 among the group was the predecessor chief among the top 10 legatees. Grandmaster. By Yi Zaiwen's side, Huang Wuji prostrated himself, feeling despondent to one of the white-clothed old men like a heartbroken child. I am Wuji. I didn't expect to be able to meet you at this time. Yi Shiwen then knew that the old man in white was actually the previous chief of the Tibetan Star Summit, the previous Tibetan Star Sun. Suddenly, Yi Shiwen was shocked. The Tibetan Star Summit had only one heir even until Yi Zaiwen's generation. Yi Shiwen had never heard of the chief from the previous generation ever since he joined. Hence, he thought the previous generation had already died of old age. He didn't expect that the older generation was still alive, having the chance to meet such a person again. In shock, Yi Shiwen also knelt down quickly, not daring to be rude. Good boy, I didn't expect that you have grown to this stage in the past 1,000 years. Ha, God really bless Tibetan Star Summit. The previous Tibetan Star Sun laughed loudly in delight. You master did an excellent job. It is better off to hand Tibetan Star Summit to him rather than me. When I first met you, you were just a child, but now you are grown up. My true martial school indeed has a successor now. Disciple is blessed with the Master's grace. Otherwise, I won't have such an achievement today. I don't know that Master is still in the world. Otherwise, I should have paid my respect and be filial. Huang Wuji cried out extremely sad. He had faintly guessed why these people from the elderly predecessor generation who he initially thought were dead or missing appeared now. 7-star chi-breaking array. When they mentioned this array, everyone understood the plan. This array was not really well known. It was not because it was not powerful. On the contrary, this array was extremely powerful and malicious. It would not be utilized in the critical moment. Once the array was set up, the person who placed this array would inevitably die in the end, and no one would be spared no matter what the result was. At this moment, these 6 elderly predecessors and Dangyang Peak Chief stood out. They were obviously going to put up the 7-star chi-breaking array to stop the attack of that peerless weapon. Not to mention how terrifying that peerless weapon was, But there was also the severe backlash of the 7-star breaking elementary array. They would inevitably die even if they survived the confrontation. All of their blood essence would be exhausted. The death would be extremely miserable. Therefore, although this large array was extremely powerful, it was not well known. Every time it appeared, it must be the time when true martial school was at stake. This array had an extremely harsh condition. Only transcendent realm masters could operate it. If it weren't for the time when it was a matter of life and death, how could 7 transcendent realm masters be sacrificed like this? That was why Huang Wuji couldn't help crying. Even if the master didn't die previously, but now once he stepped up, he would definitely die for sure. It would really be the last time to see him. Stupid boy. The previous Tibetan star's son didn't care. I was seriously injured in a battle. If I hadn't stayed in the depths of the dragon vein all these years and nourished by countless spiritual energy, I would have died already. Even so, I was in a coma most of the time. You knew it a long time ago, and it was impossible for you to look for me. Right now, I could see that you are becoming more and more prosperous. I felt relief. I can face the Tibetan Star Summit ancestors. The inheritance of the Tibetan Star Summit has never been interrupted in my hands after all. Grandmaster! Huang Wuji cried even more sad. Yi Shiwen had never seen Huang Wuji cry like a child. Although he and his senior brother Huang Wuji didn't have many chances to meet each other, their relationship was great. Seeing him like this, Yi Shiwen felt uncomfortable. What's more, he also figured out that the 7-star chi-breaking array would be the last sacrifice these seniors could give. It reminded him of the old sect lord at the beginning. The situation was the same. It was rather challenging. During the last battle, it sparkled like a brilliant firework, dedicating his life to Yuan sect. Perhaps, true martial school had all kinds of internal struggles where many people within fight for power. However, there were always these people who were willing to give everything for the school, and even their lives. It was precisely because these people kept fighting for true martial school that true martial school could continue having legatees countless years. You are Yi Shiwen, right? Suddenly, the previous Tibetan star's son looked at Yi Shiwen. His gaze was filled with kindness. Grandmaster, I am. Yi Shiwen quickly replied. Your master told me about you 2 years ago. Tibetan Star Sutra is also completed by you. For our Tibetan Star Summit, the most important inheritance has also been completed in your hands. I can finally rest assured that I put no shame to the ancestors. The hope of the Tibetan Star Summit in the future depends on Wuji and you. The previous Tibetan star's son smiled with satisfaction and felt relief in his heart. Perhaps the nightmare of the Tibetan Star Summit would end. Fates would allow them to soar. Unfortunately, I won't be able to witness that scene anymore. Grandmaster, rest assured, you can definitely see the disciples carry forward the Tibetan Star Summit. Huang Wuji whimpered. We old guys have finished off our lifespan. I have everything I wanted in this life with no regrets. Unfortunately, there are only 6 of us in this generation. If there is another one, we don't have to sacrifice Master's nephew Dangyang. Master's nephew Dangyang is in his prime years. You shouldn't step on this path with us, 6 dying old guys. The previous Tibetan star's son sighed, but gazed towards Chief Dangyang. Master's uncle, don't need to say that. Even if we don't operate the 7-star chi-breaking array this time, our generation should retreat behind the scenes. I won't be able to contribute much. Being able to see the younger generation growing further, I have no more worries. Now, just welcome these emergent school bastards shortly. Dangyang Chief said in awe-inspiringly, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.